All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Press X Podcast. Thank you for taking time out of your lives to come hang out with me and listen to me probably rant a little bit at some point, especially considering how significant everything has been this week in terms of everything that's been going down with the live streams and PlayStation in general. I think we have some pretty exciting topics. Granted, a lot of the stuff we're going to be covering we have talked about, but I think that there's more to be said, and we also have some other things that we're going to be talking about that I have yet to cover. So we already have nearly 300 people here watching, which is awesome. Be sure to hit the like button to help the podcast out and show your support. And as you can see on screen here, there will be gameplay, but for the first couple minutes, probably the first 5 to 10 minutes maybe of the podcast, depending on how long it takes, I have a new credit roll going on here for all of my channel members because I realized that it's just simply not practical for me to verbally shout out every single member, whether it's at the beginning or the end of the podcast. So I hope you guys like what I came up with here. Obviously, it's just something that's going to be there in the beginning, not the whole time, maybe at the end as well, depending. So we will be putting some gameplay in the background as well, but I hope that this is something that all of the channel members can, enjoy. Feel free to leave me your feedback down in, I always say down in the comments, but let me know your feedback in the chat. You can also let me know down in the comments as well. But yeah, guys, this has been an absolutely insane week when it comes to PlayStation and the stuff that they have been revealing, the stuff that they have been showing, I should say. I don't even want to say revealing, right? Because this isn't like new game announcements. I mean, just straight up showing raw gameplay. So I think we have some pretty good topics to talk about. Obviously, one of the first things we're going to be talking about. Also, I do want to mention here that out of all the names that are listed here, if anybody notices that I maybe misspelled their name or something like that, I apologize in advance. I had to manually type all of them out, and I tried to double and triple check it, but there's a chance that maybe one or a few things slipped through, so I'm just apologizing now. But getting on to the topics that we're going to be discussing during this episode of the podcast, the first thing we're going to have to talk about, we have to talk more about Sony's approach to how they're going into not only next generation by showing off this gameplay demo and partnering with Epic. There's more to be said about that. There's been a lot, almost an unbearable amount of salt ever since this actually was showcased. But I think it's also worth taking a moment to actually pay attention to what they did with Ghost of Tsushima and the state of play. Obviously, a lot of this stuff is stuff that I did say during those streams, but I'm going to try to approach it in a more refined way here. But I also think that there's more to be said about this. There's no doubt that we have to talk about this again because this was just easily the biggest thing that happened in quite some time, honestly. So we're talking about that. We're going to be talking about Xbox as well because it seems like ever since this showcase happened, ever since Sony came out here and really got people excited for the next generation with Epic Games, there has been some there's been some pushback from the Xbox community, but also some people within Xbox. Phil Spencer had some things to say specifically about what we can expect. In July, there's been some supposed insiders letting us know that apparently Microsoft is saving the big guns for July, and according to them, they're really going to live up to that and meet that expectation. So we're going to talk about that as well, and we're also talking about Framerate. This is a big topic of discussion when it comes to these next-gen consoles. I don't believe we took time to really properly talk about Assassin's Creed, but also this PlayStation 5 demo was running at 30 FPS, so I just want to have a conversation about that. And so we're going to go into that. We have Eric Golden here. You're saying, how will you play Ghost of Tsushima in color or in black and white? I honestly don't know yet. I want to say that I want to play it in color because for as cool as the black and white mode is, I like what they're doing with that. I just feel like if you look at the color palette that is being offered in Ghost of Tsushima, it's just so nice and so good to look at that I feel like it's going to be difficult for me to willingly play the the entire game in black and white, but I'll probably mess with it here and there for sure. So also I have a neighbor who's just revving up his motorcycle, so if you hear that in the background, just know that's all it is. So apologize for that if it's kind of like causing anybody's sound systems to rumble like crazy. But yeah, we have some really good topics here to go over. At the end, as I like to do now, I think we've established a pretty good format. We are going to be covering a lot of just general game news, obviously some of the big stuff that was announced, like the Tony Hawk games and whatnot, and we're going to talk about all that stuff as well. So I just wanted to give you a general overview. But before we dive into all that, I am going to I'm going to let this scroll kind of finish up, and then I'm going to switch over to the gameplay here. So you're going to see some of the PlayStation 5 demo showcase. You're going to see the Ghost of Tsushima gameplay, and you are also going to see some God of War gameplay as well. I've really been enjoying my time with God of War. I'm looking forward to talking more about it. Oh, I actually got to fix that a little bit. You can still kind of see the credits rolling in the background. But yeah, I think this might be a little uneven here, but as long as you guys can see it properly. I want to kind of make sure that the everything is lined up, just because I know it can look a little weird sometimes when you have overlays. Just give me 1 second here, and I think that's good. So yeah, sorry about that. We have Joe S. You're saying PlayStation 5 is going to be a tower, just like the Xbox Series X. I don't know about that. I mean, it could be. I'm hearing people say that they think it's not going to be. Some people who claim to talk to sources and all that mumbo jumbo. But I would be okay with it simply because I feel like the Xbox's tower form factor has grown on me just a little bit. It's still pretty off. I think it was just really off-putting at first. But, I guess I've just seen it so much that it doesn't really bother me that much. So I don't know. I would be fine with whatever the PlayStation 5 looks like, but, if it's a tower, it's a tower. If not, then, I'll just be interested to see what it ends up looking like. But thank you for that, buddy. So diving into the first topic here, Sony and Epic Games blow everyone away with the first true next-generation tech demo. Sony and Epic Games apparently worked together for a long time on this, and they did so to show off the capabilities of Unreal Engine 5 and to show, to an extent, what next-generation games can look like on the PlayStation 5. There's been a lot of talk surrounding this demo, but one thing is for sure, Sony has delivered what everyone was waiting for, and that is a real glimpse into what next-gen games will look and play like. And I say play there because there's been a lot of people who've tried to push back against this demo, saying that it's just a tech demo. It's not representative of how a game can play or anything like that. But Epic Games was sure to let everybody know that actually this, even though it is just a tech demo, it is fully playable on PlayStation 5 hardware. Now, on top of that, there's been a lot of people who are clearly very upset at just, the amount of sheer hype and excitement that Sony was able to conjure up in such a just short period of time. And what's also interesting is it's coming right off the heels of Microsoft failing to get people hyped in the way that I would assume we were all expecting them to. And so I just don't understand why people, at least some people, can look at this gameplay demo that was shown off on Unreal Engine 5, and the first, you could just tell that it's really just the fanboys getting upset, because the first thing you'll hear, or the first thing you'll see them respond with, is basically just, oh, well, it's not that good. Oh, it's just 1440p, 30 FPS. And they'll fail to mention that everything that was showcased here, of course, it's going to scale, right? This can run on the Xbox Series X. We just don't know to what extent. We haven't seen it. But I think people fail to understand the bigger picture here, and they lose the forest for the trees here, in that this is a showcase of a game engine, a multi-platform game engine. So not only is it just extremely impressive, and yes, it is worth noting that 8K assets were imported into this demo, and they were sure to emphasize that these assets that were imported were basically movie quality, stuff that would be saved for movies, and they didn't really have to do any optimization whatsoever. The artist was able to just literally take the 8K asset or the 8K texture and just import it directly into the game engine with very little, if any, optimization whatsoever, and it retained that exact quality. So just, you have to keep that in mind. And this isn't damage control or anything like that, but people do need to understand that, Sony and Epic Games, especially with Sony, like, Sony knows this is not everything. They're not showing the big guns yet. I mean, this was a big gun for sure. This was a big flex, but this is just the start, right? So we have Akurumi, I always mess up your name, Akurumi, saying, "Sup man, just woke up, what did I miss?" Well, luckily we are pretty early into the podcast here. You didn't miss much. We are just diving into the first topic here, and continuing on with that topic, I just think that when I say I think most people are losing the forest for the trees here, at least when I say most people, those who are pushing back against this demo, those who are trying to act unimpressed by it, those who are saying that, oh, this just looks like current generation games. When I say they're losing the forest for the trees here, what I'm trying to get at is that this really is just a small glimpse. Granted, I don't think all third-party games are going to look that good, right? It's going to take some time to build up to that. There's no doubt about that. But this is not Sony's first-party flex, okay? And that's the point. And I think once people see what Sony's first-party flex looks like compared to this, I think they're going to be very impressed. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Maybe it won't look as good. But do we really anticipate that? Do we really anticipate that the studios that are working exclusively with the PlayStation 5 hardware aren't going to be able to achieve more than what this tech demo was able to achieve with? I'm not saying it didn't take effort for them to put this demo together, because of course it did, but there's no doubt that this is a very highly unoptimized demo, right? I've even seen a lot of the hardcore Xbox guys, or at least some of them, basically confirming that, yeah, like, this was impressive and it's only going to get better. So we have Mr. Hamster saying, "I thought the demo is to make more devs use Unreal Engine 5. And you are not wrong, Mr. Hamster. That's exactly the purpose of this demo. Sony was just smart enough to kind of get in bed with Epic Games, and it was just a great partnership and a great marketing move on Sony's part and Epic Games' part as well, where I guess they both realized it's a mutual agreement. Like, it's in their best interest for both of them to partner on this, because Sony knows that, like, this isn't everything, right? And Epic Games, their goal is, we want to sell developers on this engine. And so Sony was well aware that when they decided to show off this engine running on the PS5, this is not going to be indicative of what Sony's first-party engines, like, the Decima engine, for example, are going to be able to achieve. There's going to be a lot more that Sony Studios can do with the PS5 hardware that you're simply just not seeing in this demo because of that. The purpose of this demo was basically Epic Games saying, look, this is our next generation engine. We want as many game developers as possible to utilize this game engine, to use this when creating their games. And so when you think about that, yeah, I mean, they're trying to show something that is very scalable. So the big argument here, which if you really want to dive into the big fanboy territory area, the big argument is a lot of, at least some PlayStation fans are claiming that what you're seeing in this, not the Ghost of Tsushima demo, obviously, that you're seeing now, but the PlayStation 5 Unreal Engine demo can simply not be achieved on Xbox Series X hardware. Now, I don't know if I agree with this. You also have Xbox fanboys kind of playing the defensive card here, because I came across this article, and I actually didn't make a video on it, but I wanted to mention it here, and I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. I really do, and you can clearly tell that there are just some salty people after seeing this demo on the PS5, where we have, from Windows Central, the article headline reads NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2070 Super and NVMe SSD can run Unreal Engine 5 demo on PC. So basically what they're trying to do here is they're trying to take the wind away from Sony sales and Epic sales here, by basically trying to downplay and be like, oh, this can be achieved on PC, no problem. Like, you're losing the forest for the trees here. No one cares, all right? Like, that's the thing. Like, no one cares that this can be achieved to a certain extent on a specific build of a PC. Like, literally nobody cares, okay? Because first of all, you're failing to understand that who is this demo, considering it's paired with the PlayStation 5, I mean, obviously it's meant to appeal to developers and get them to buy Unreal Engine 5 or use it for their games, right? But who is this really supposed to appeal to? It's supposed to appeal to the console audience, not the PC audience. That's the point, right? Like, it doesn't, like, nobody cares if this stuff can or cannot be achieved on PC. At least they shouldn't. What they really care about is what I'm seeing here running on a PS5 exciting? To the point where, wow, I want to go maybe buy a PS5 now because this is what games are expected to look like at some point in time during the PlayStation 5's life cycle. That's why I just don't understand these people who are like, yeah, well, it can run on this and it can run on that. Like, who cares? Like, it can run on the Xbox Series X. That's great. That's fantastic. Like, I'm super happy for anybody who, believes that this can run on the Xbox Series X. But the fact of the matter is this, people, it was running on a PS5. Okay, when Epic decided to showcase this, and they wanted to showcase it in the best possible light, they, in my opinion, made the smart move, and they decided to show it on a PS5. So, in my opinion, it's irrelevant whether or not this demo can run on the Xbox Series X, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We saw it on the PlayStation 5 hardware. I'm sure if it was the other way around, yeah, a lot of people would also be saying, oh, well, it can run on the PS5 too, but that's just not the situation. And so I guess it's worth mentioning something that Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney, he actually tweeted this out, and I guess it was just to kind of clarify to everybody that yes, like the engine they're showcasing is not exclusive to Sony or the PlayStation 5. The engine they're showcasing is meant to run across all platforms. Again, this is just where I think Sony made the smarter move. And they were like, look, Epic, like, let's work together on this. We have Josh Burkett. You're saying, I'd sure hope some massive gaming rig could run some high-end graphics. That's its purpose, right? So, yes, it's impressive. It can run on the PS5. And you're exactly right, Josh. I mean, this is where it's like, I get that you want to make it clear to people that what you're seeing here is possible on PC to an extent. And to be honest, I'm not technically sound enough to know for sure. What I do know is that Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney said multiple times in multiple different interviews that what Sony's doing, at least with the SSD, is far and ahead away from anything that is currently available on PC. Now, I don't know if he's exaggerating, but there's no doubt that what Sony's doing with the SSD is it's probably future-proofed, I'd say, at the very least. Bare minimum, it's future-proofed. But Tim Sweeney, he tweeted this out about a day ago. Before I read this, we have super trendy moneymaker saying PS5 will do 4K 60 FPS and 120 FPS. Xbox is full of crap. I mean, yeah, that's another thing here too, is that like you have to understand a lot of the stuff they were doing here can be altered to where they wouldn't have to necessarily compromise a lot on the visual quality that you saw in the demo in order to achieve 4K 60. And this is again a conversation we're going to have later on in this podcast. There's no doubt that some tweaks would have to be made. I doubt they would be that significant. I think what it would really come down to is optimization. Again, the thing about this demo is, in my opinion, is pretty clear that this is just unoptimized. This is basically trying to show developers, like if you just want to basically throw everything in there, just throw it in there and get it running really quick on the PS5, this is what you can achieve without any serious optimization. That's the vibe I got from what they were showing. But this is what Tim Sweeney tweeted out. He said, the Unreal Engine 5 demo on PlayStation 5 was the culmination of years of discussion between Sony and Epic Games on the future of storage and architectures. Let me read that again. It was a culmination of years of discussion between Sony and Epic on future graphics and storage architectures. The Nanite and Lumen tech powering it will be fully supported on both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and will be awesome on both. So there we go. I mean, Tim Sweeney's basically just coming out here, I think, just trying to calm the waters a little bit, because there's no doubt that some PlayStation guys are running with this, trying to make it sound as though this is just not, like this engine isn't even going to run on the Xbox Series X. Like, listen, this is a showcase for a multi-platform engine. It's going to scale across all. So we have a new member here, Lorenzo. Thank you for opting to become a member here and taking the plunge and the big step here to support me directly. Thank you so much for that. Look forward to your exclusive perks. And yeah, I hope you enjoy them. And as I say to all my members, thank you so much for choosing to go above and beyond and support me directly here. But we also have John Boyer saying PCers spent dollars to be elite, consoles threaten this. Yeah, I'm assuming you meant like basically you're trying to say that they spent potentially thousands of dollars to have the top tier. And that's the thing about the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, is that both of these consoles are so advanced, they're so cutting edge with some of the features they're going to offer, with some of the architecture, that it really does get to a point where it does threaten PC. Not to the extent like, oh, it's going to put, PC gamers to shame. It's not necessarily that, but you're going to see some things in the consoles that aren't readily available for the PC market yet. It will be over time, right? And that's just the way it is. And that's also a huge draw for these companies. This is why they're doing this, because part of the goal here is to try to, especially on Sony's part, more so on Sony's part than Xbox's, is the idea is they want to drive console sales, and part of that is we want to convince PC gamers to go out there and buy our console. I say more so on Sony than Microsoft because I think Sony's kind of proven with their exclusive games that obviously, they are willing, as we can see with Horizon Zero Dawn, they are willing to put some of their stuff on PC, but certainly not all of it. And so that tells me that they still want to try to get the PC crowd over onto their console. We have Mr. Hamster saying, guys, please be polite to each other in the chat. Yeah, I know that this conversation can stir the pot for sure. It's just the nature of it, but I can back that up 100%, Mr. Hamster. Let's try to keep this clean. Let's try to, not get too intense in the chat here. It's just not necessary. We're just having a conversation here, just try to be polite and respectful. You can certainly have your opinion and have your strong opinions for sure, but there's no need to be nasty about it. And we also have Oe Akarumi again. You're saying, Xbox is like Anakin Skywalker and Sony is Obi-Wan, where Xbox just went over and became Darth Vader. Yeah, it reminds me of the scene, I have the high ground, don't try it, and then Xbox tries it anyway, and they just get sliced up, but I do agree. I feel like this whole thing we've seen here is just a huge flex from Sony, where it serves as a reminder, not that Sony is untouchable, because of course they're not untouchable, right? Like, they're a business, they're a company, they can make a slew of mistakes one after the other, just like any other company can, but it tells me a couple things. First of all, it's them flexing and showing, like, look, don't underestimate us. We know what we're doing. We've been doing this for a long time. But it also tells me, and this is the more important thing, tells me that Sony is still very much in touch with what the gamers want, because everything they showed over that course of that 48 hours, in my opinion, is just, it's like a grand slam. You knocked it out of the park and you delivered everything that gamers were hoping for. They wanted to see what we can expect with next gen tech. We saw that running on a PS5. And it impressed everybody, mostly everybody, right? Got people way more excited. And then on top of that, the very next day, you're also showing gameplay of your games that you have coming out in just a few weeks and a couple months now. I mean, does it get any better than that? I'm not so sure. The only thing that's missing from this equation is actually seeing the PS5 and the game announcements, and those will be coming as well. Again, I kind of described it as this was like a big appetizer. Not a small appetizer, a big appetizer, but the main course is yet to be revealed yet and to come out. We have James C. You're saying Maneater is out Friday at $40. Yeah, James C., I think you're the person that's been telling me for quite some time now I have to check out that game, Maneater. Can't promise that I'll get to it, but it does look pretty interesting. It's definitely not your run-of-the-mill type of game. You literally play as a shark eating people. I think that's your goal of the game, so pretty interesting. But Tim Sweeney also said here in another tweet, I think he was asked by, Tom Warren, why PC and not a PC? Was it due to the SSD performance? And basically what Tom Warren is asking Tim Sweeney here is like, are you saying that this isn't achievable on PC? Is the reason why you're not mentioning PC when you mention PS5 and Xbox Series X? Because what we're seeing here is simply not, it's being catered to that SSD, which we know pretty much no PCs have SSDs like that, and any PCs that do, like, realistically, nobody's going to be able to afford that. And he said systems integration and whole system performance, bringing in data from high bandwidth storage into video memory in its native format with hardware decompression is very efficient. So basically what this boils down to, guys, is, well, first of all, I mean, there's a bunch of different components to this. There's the marketing component, there's the consumer component, and there's also just the component of is, like, who between Sony and Microsoft is making the better moves here. And to me, that's the most interesting component, because we've already established that from a marketing standpoint, Sony and Epic Games just absolutely killed it here. They knocked it out of the park. When it comes to a consumer standpoint, I think it's safe to say that everybody's pretty much hyped by what they saw. There's a few select people who are not hyped or who are acting unimpressed, and nobody really cares what they think, because the overwhelming majority of people, majority rules, say that what was shown was awesome and gets them excited for next gen. And again, we're not even talking about Ghost of Tsushima here, but that's just part of it, right? So the third component, like, when you look at the difference in decision making when it comes to console design, we've been talking about this for a long time now, where Sony's PlayStation 5 design is a more narrow design, where it's more about speed and efficiency. It's more about having that speed and efficiency with zero bottlenecks. And really, when you look at the Xbox Series X, it's more of a wide design, where it's more about that. I mean, it's also going to be a very fast console. It's also going to be very efficient, but there's more compute units. There's 52 compute units, and overall, it's more about flexing harder, than it is about trying to achieve the fastest possible speed. And I guess what I'm trying to get at here is, like, what I'm seeing here with this Epic Games partnership and with what Tim Sweeney's saying. I mean, if you listen to what he's had to say in these interviews, I've covered it in a video. Not everything he said, obviously, but he's just been saying a lot. And, Epic Games CEO, he's not the be-all, end-all, but he plays a big role in the industry. Epic Games plays a huge role in the gaming industry. And in my opinion, what you're seeing here is the validation of everything that Mark Cerny talked about back during the PlayStation 5 deep dive, where there was just a lot of confusion. A lot of people were so fixated, myself included, unfortunately, on the teraflop number that we were losing, at least I was, and I think many others, the forest for the trees, as I keep saying. I know I sound like a broken record saying that, but where it really, started to become a conversation of, oh no, PlayStation has the weaker console, has less teraflops, it's going to be less capable. And of course, you saw the Xbox guys really run with this, understandably so. But they ran with it to a point where they tried to, and they still are attempting to convince people like us who are very much hyped for the PS5 that the PS5 just simply is not going to be able to compete with the Xbox Series X, or at least in the sense that the Xbox Series X, there's going to be a huge performance delta. And in my opinion, what we're seeing here is the validation of the decision making that Sony, or Mark Cerny, I should say, made when coming up with this console. I mean, why would Epic Games choose to partner with Sony, knowing that they have the weaker console, right? But, oh, wait, maybe that's because we have a big AAA developer in Epic Games, the CEO of Epic Games, coming out here confirming, and again, validating Sony's decisions here, saying that, yeah, the future of game design, the future of progression, when you talk about moving the industry forward as a whole, the future of innovation comes from speed. It comes from bandwidth. It comes from I/O throughput. Of course, GPU power and compute units and all that stuff is important as well. That will always play a role. But really what it comes down to is you're seeing more and more developers. First, it started with just the smaller indie developers, and occasionally you'd hear a big name here and there reference it. But now you're seeing the big developers come out. And, there are a lot of people gave Sony and PlayStation fans a bunch of crap because they're like, oh, it's just Sony developers saying this. It's just PlayStation's first party praising the SSD. Of course, they're going to do that and say that's the future of gaming because they're Sony developers. But here we go. Now you are seeing the actual validation of how Sony's decision-making, the decisions that Mark Cerny made when designing this console, and what he, as he put it himself, balancing innovation with just kind of, doing more of the same, right? Like, it's a hard balance to achieve, and there's no doubt that, in my opinion, there is no doubt that Sony has clearly opted in for the more innovative route, and they're not trying to play it as safe. But I think it's because maybe, just maybe, Mark Cerny had enough foresight to kind of look at the landscape and realize that, GPU power is going to continue to climb, T-flop numbers, compute units, all that stuff is going to continue to climb. But where's the real innovation going to come from the ground up? I'm talking about like completely changing game design. It's going to come through data. Like, this is stuff that a lot of the really brilliant minds in the industry, people who really understand this stuff, people like, I don't know, say Mark Cerny and Tim Sweeney, they understand this, right? They understand that this is where it counts. This is where you're going to see the big breakthrough. I mean, literally, Tim Sweeney was quoted with saying that what Sony has achieved, I'm paraphrasing, but he used the term fundamental, I'm losing track here, but he basically a fundamental shift. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but he's basically saying that this really is going to be a big shift. It's not going to happen all at one time, but it's going to be big. We have young SCS here. You're saying Halo 5 intro is now possible on PlayStation 5. Yeah, there's a good chance that is. But, it's hard to not get, involved in the fanboy stuff when we have these conversations. And I know that because I'm a very PlayStation-centric channel. I'm a big PlayStation fan. There's a lot of people who are just going to listen to what I say and say, it's just nonsense. You're just breakthrough. There we go. Sorry. Yeah, I know. I'm losing track here. I'm like getting so confused with all this stuff I'm saying. But, we have Tim Sweeney saying that what Sony is achieving here is literally a fundamental breakthrough. And it's not to say that the Series X isn't attempting to do something similar, but all I'm going to say is this. At the end of the day, we are going to have to wait and see who bet on the right horse here. Because Sony is betting on one horse, Microsoft is betting on another. And all I'm trying to convey here is that as we get closer to the launch of the next generation, as we get closer to these consoles coming out, and they're going to probably be here for quite some time, I have no idea what the generation of consoles beyond this would even look like, it's starting to seem to me that we're getting more and more validation that what Sony has opted here with, what the horse they bet on, I guess we could say, will end up being the right horse. Not saying that Microsoft's is the wrong, but it comes down to differences. And there's just no way around that. I've said it time and time again, and I will continue to say it. The thing that people are going to care about most when it comes to upgrading to a next generation console is, what is the difference going to be between my current console and the next generation console? And to be completely frank with everybody, it's going to be more than just visuals. I think we're at a point where the visuals look so good, even just looking at this God of War gameplay, granted it's compressed 1080p footage. This is a game from 2018. The visuals look so damn good already. We know they can get better. We know they will be better. In fact, they will be significantly better with these next-gen consoles. But people are going to be looking for more than that this time around. And I just have this feeling that what Sony is doing with the SSD, the I/O throughput, and the bandwidth that they're offering developers, while also trying to remove all bottlenecks, trying to make it so that everything works in unison with one another, right? Again, I know Xbox is doing the same thing, but again, this is where you're talking about speed versus just raw compute power, okay? There's no doubt that the Xbox Series X will be fast, but there's also no doubt that the PS5 is significantly faster. So we're going to see at the end of the day who ends up having the bigger impact when it comes to overall game development. What I will tell you, and I guess where I will end this rant about the overall what we're hearing from Tim Sweeney in the Epic Games demo, what I will tell you is that it's very telling, in my opinion, that you see one of the biggest, you see the owner of one of the biggest and most prominent game engines in the world, Unreal Engine, coming out here and partnering with Sony while simultaneously talking up all of the points that Sony came up with. There's a lot of people saying, oh, Sony just paid them to do this. Yeah, I'm sure that's what happened, guys. I'm sure Sony had to pay Epic Games to develop their game engine around bandwidth and I/O throughput, right? And really put that at the forefront. No. Okay, there's a lot more to the game engine than just that, but as you can clearly tell, Epic Games is basically on board with what Sony is doing here. We have Tyrone Futter, you're saying the PS5 design will be revealed soon as manufacturing needs to be in full production by June, according to JS. If they don't reveal it, then it might leak. Yeah, that might be another random topic that I throw in here that is PlayStation related. I put out an interesting tweet, and I want to talk a little bit more about that so people understand what I meant by that, basically saying that the PS5 might not be revealed in June, but we just might end up getting game reveals. But that's just where I want to end this little rant here, is just kind of reaffirming to everybody who maybe doesn't want to believe that Sony is making some really good moves here, and more importantly, making some really good future-proofing decisions with the PlayStation 5 hardware. You're seeing Epic Games with the Unreal Engine basically side with Sony and say, yeah, there's a reason why we opted to go with Sony. And no, it's not because Sony wrote them a big enough check. You're talking about Epic Games, the owners of Fortnite and Unreal Engine. They don't need Sony's money. I'm sure they'll take it, but they don't need it. And they're certainly not going to allow themselves, when developing their next generation engine, to be influenced by Sony's money. No, if they're going to be influenced by anything Sony is doing, it's their innovation. And again, like, what better validation could you get than this? So it's nothing against Xbox. It's nothing against the Xbox engineers and the design decisions that they made. And I'm not trying to crap on the Xbox. I'm just simply saying that we have two different companies making two consoles that are similar in many ways, but they're also both banking on two different things. They're both betting on two different horses. And at the end of the day, we're going to end up seeing which one bet on the right horse. So I see Junior Jackson, you're asking, MBG, do you game on a 4K monitor or TV? I do game on a 4K TV. I also have a 4K monitor, and I game on that occasionally, but I really like that big home, sitting in the recliner in the living room, that homey experience on the big screen TV. We have Gray561, you're saying, will we get a heads up from Sony before pre-order? Yes, 100%. We will. I mean, unless you're basically saying, like, are they going to announce that you can pre-order the PS5 the day they reveal it? In that sense, maybe not, but I think that we're going to know, like, they're going to let everybody know that, like, pre-orders are going to be available probably, like, later this week or something like that. They could do pre-orders that are available today. We don't know yet. I don't have the answer for that, but we'll have to wait and see, guys. But we are going to move on. Well, actually, before we move on, there's just a few questions I wrote down here that I wanted to ask you guys and maybe myself as well. Did Microsoft miss a big opportunity here by not doing something similar when they had the chance? What I mean by that, did they make a big mistake by not trying to do something similar that Sony did here with Epic Games? Like, maybe they should have tried to partner up. It could have been with Epic Games, or maybe another prominent figure within the industry that has a really prominent game engine do something similar. Did they make a mistake? I think they did. And this is where I think Sony capitalized on them kind of on their mistake. I really do think that, it was just the perfect storm here for, I guess in that case you could say Microsoft, where they're the ones being impacted by the storm in a negative way. And I said, is this, if this is how good, and I already mentioned this, but it's worth mentioning again, if this is how good a tech demo from a third-party engine can look, and it's meant to scale up and down dramatically. Again, that's the important thing about this Unreal Engine 5. It's meant to scale up and down dramatically. What can we expect Sony Studios to do with their game engines that are built with really just the PlayStation 5 in mind? Granted, they can scale, of course, but what can we expect there? Something tells me we can expect some big things. And also, some people are being negative about this tech demo, claiming that it's disappointing because it doesn't achieve 60 FPS or feature real-time hardware accelerated ray tracing. It's worth noting that this tech demo was highly unoptimized. Okay, so I'm spending too much time on this topic, but there's one last thing we have to mention here when it comes to ray tracing. Everybody was like, oh, this demo doesn't feature ray tracing. Listen, the Lumen engine is basically, it uses dynamic global illumination, a form of it. For those who are wondering, global illumination is a form of ray tracing. It's just not hardware accelerated. I mean, it's basically a more intensive version. There's a bunch of different ways you can achieve it. And one of those ways is path tracing, which is the hardware accelerated ray tracing that you see a lot of developers are trying to push and master, and the type that I think Microsoft is pushing as well, where it is more intensive, and it does require a lot more, horsepower, I guess you could say, to really achieve it. But what Epic Games was trying to showcase here with the Lumen engine, with this dynamic global illumination in the PS5 tech demo, is how scalable it is and how easy it is to implement. And it's also not taxing on the hardware, at least not that taxing, compared to just pure hardware accelerated ray tracing, path tracing. That's very taxing on the hardware. But they also were sure to let developers know that if you want to go that route with your ray tracing, you can. You can achieve it in this engine. Again, they're trying to show what they can achieve basically at the bare minimum, right? When it comes to just like throwing it up, like turning it on and off, right? Like it doesn't take much effort on the developer side there. So, there's just been a lot of confusion around that. There's been a lot of people saying, oh, well, they confirm that there's no ray tracing. No, if you go look at what Epic Games said, their wording, there is no hardware accelerated ray tracing. Global illumination has been around for a while now, and it can do some great things, and clearly we're seeing with this Lumen engine, they can do a lot of things. I've seen people saying that that's wrong, MBG. Listen, if you Google right now, global illumination versus ray tracing, Google that right now, you'll have your answer, and it straight up tells you global illumination is a form of ray tracing. So, maybe I'm wrong on that. But I don't know. If that's the case, then I guess there's just a lot of misinformation out there that I am being exposed to. So, if anybody has a better explanation for me, feel free to share it. I can't promise I'll see it in the chat, but, after the fact, anybody who's listening to this after the fact, if you want to let me know in the comments, hopefully politely, let me know if I'm completely off the mark here, and let me know why I'm wrong, because I want to educate myself with this stuff. That's all it is. I'm not trying to tell, I know I'm sounding like I'm telling people definitively, but I'm just interested to see what people have to say about this. So 1440p 30 FPS already lost next gen. Eesh. Yeah, no, I think you're off the mark there, buddy. I don't think Sony's gonna lose anything next gen, but somebody's saying no, you are right, MBG. And yeah, that's the thing, I tried to look into it. I like to think that unless I was just literally given false information or wrong information. So anyway, we're going to move on from that. We've spent over 40 minutes on this single topic. So before we do that, we have over 1,700 people watching. Thank you guys for chilling here with me and listening to me rant and hanging out. Be sure to hit that like button. You guys have been just absolutely crushing it when it comes to showing support here on the channel and with the likes as well. My last two streams got over 3,000 likes each, and I think one of them even got over 4,000, which was just fantastic. You guys have no idea how much that actually helps. So be sure to hit that like button and help out the stream, and it's the easiest way for you to support it. Somebody's saying, Evan Sater, sorry, MBG, you are wrong. Well, again, let me know why I may be wrong. We have Sir Speaks a Lot. Once again, buddy, you're saying there will always be resistance, MBG. The best thing you can do is probably just let them whine about it and rather than arguing with Microsoft to do something. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying there, man. You sometimes you gotta let it be, right? You just gotta let people do what they're gonna do. I'm just gonna take a drink here, check out what you guys are saying in the chat, because it's clearly blowing up here. Carl, you're saying MBG was a PS5 dev kit limited to 1440p 30 FPS. That's possible. I did hear that this was an older. Final note on this PS5 tech demo, apparently this was something that was meant to be showed off at GDC for the developers, and it was made quite some time ago, and it was on an early version of the PS5 dev kit. So, take that take that how you will. Search results, global illumination, the more advanced form of ray tracing. That's what Google says. Yeah, I'm not saying Google's right about everything, but that is what it says, and it's taking that from, probably the most relevant source, I would assume. D. Darko, you're saying Sony had to innovate to extend home console life. Exactly. They had to innovate because they know that people are just going to get tired of it's a little bit more powerful. Games just look a little bit more better. No. People in the long run, especially from Sony's first-party studios, are expecting some huge leaps in overall, game development and what can be achieved. So, yeah. We are going to move on to the second topic here, though. Hopefully I didn't spend too much time on that. But the second topic, and I'm probably not going to spend as much time on this just because a lot of what we talked about did kind of briefly mention this, but we're going to talk about this Ghost of Tsushima demo, this gameplay demo. Sony continues to meet gamers' expectations because the very next day after showcasing their first ever next-gen tech demo, they decided to show over 18 minutes of raw Ghost of Tsushima gameplay. Sony has not only found a way to drive up excitement for their next-generation console, but they have found a way to do so while also driving up excitement for one of the last big PS4 exclusives that will be releasing in July. The most important thing about this is the fact that Sony has proven that they can give their upcoming exclusives their own time to shine while also hyping up the PS5. And that is one really important point that I wanted to make here, to kind of, because this was a big concern I had. And granted, there is still time for Sony to mess this up, but this was a big concern I had where I was thinking, Sony has The Last of Us Part 2, they have Ghost of Tsushima, two really huge, massive AAA games that are both coming out, I'd say later in 2020, obviously, with The Last of Us in June, Ghost of Tsushima in July. But my big concern was, how are they going to properly market these things individually and separately without basically getting in each other's way, right? Like, without the PlayStation 5 hype and marketing taking away from these games, vice versa. Now, in my opinion, this was the first indication that it could have went poorly, but it didn't. In fact, I think they did it perfectly, where basically they said, we're going to give the PlayStation 5 its time to shine in conjunction with Epic Games, and we're also going to give Ghost of Tsushima its own time to shine. And what shocks me the most is the fact that they did this within a 48-hour period, no breathing room whatsoever, and it still worked. It's also worth noting that people, I think it created a little bit of a tug of war where, like, people are trying to decide, like, what were they more impressed by, right? Like this next-gen PS5 showcase with this Unreal Engine 5 demo, or were they more impressed by what Ghost of Tsushima is able to achieve graphically and visually, and even just from an artistic style with the PlayStation 4 Pro? And I have to say that this gameplay was phenomenal. If I had to rate it like out of 10, basically, I'm not gonna lie to you, maybe this is just my bias, I would rate both the PS5 tech demo and the Ghost of Tsushima demo a 10 out of 10, because it's just like, that's how you do it, man. You just show it. Don't talk about it too much. There was talking in both, but there was just enough talking to kind of let people know what they're looking at, but then let it do the talking itself, right? Like, let it show, like, let them show you what it is. It does the talking, for them, really. So, I asked the question here, what do we think of the Ghost of Tsushima gameplay? So I want you guys in the chat to let me know, and for those who are listening after the fact, let me know in the comments, what did you think of this Ghost of Tsushima gameplay? I've seen some people saying that they were underwhelmed by it. They thought it looked too generic, too basic. I don't know. I'm not feeling that way. To be honest, I think people's standards may be a little bit too high sometimes. We're like, I don't know if we saw the same thing, but Ghost of Tsushima's gameplay looked freaking amazing. Like, I know it's not like there isn't anything there that's like mind-blowingly like, oh my god, like I've never seen anything like this in my life. But I mean, guys, if we're gonna get that, that's gonna be later on in next generation. That's not gonna happen now. I think everything we saw there looked amazing, and again, like, I was just really struck by the visuals. I was struck mainly by the art style more than anything, right? So I asked, what do you guys think of the gameplay? And I think the thing that really stood out to me the most is how Sucker Punch, and I just find this so interesting, they're using the environment as a way to guide the player to the next objective, or they're also using animals in the world and different like visual cues like smoke in the sky as a way to kind of help you explore or encourage you to go here, go there, check this out to find secret areas or side missions. I think that out of everything we've seen, that is, in my opinion, seems kind of innovative in a way where I don't know if this has been done before. I'm sure it has, but it just takes a lot of guts, in my opinion, for a development team to decide to do that with their game, because there's no doubt that a lot of people are going to get lost all the time, and maybe that is the one downside. But if they do it right, and that's the point, like if they do it right where it's not in your face, but it's just subtle enough to guide you, right? Like, that's the point of it. And I just think, I don't know, I was really impressed by that. I find it very interesting. I think it's a far cry from a lot of what other games decide to do and how they they try to clutter up your screen and they tell you literally, this is exactly where you have to go to, point for point. To me, it's going to make playing this game much more interesting, where I'm going to have to see like the balance between how often do I find myself getting frustrated because I can't figure out where I go next, versus, wow, this is actually leading to some really interesting and nice organic exploration, and the things I'm finding are actually really interesting and cool, right? So I like that. MH, you're saying you love the gameplay of Ghost of Tsushima. Sony knows what we want. Action speaks louder than words. Couldn't have said it any better myself, MH. I 100% agree there. It's more about the action. It's more about showing and less talking. This was a problem that I think Sony ran into with the deep dive, where there was just a little bit too much talking and people were getting lost and confused, and there wasn't really any showing at all. This is the complete opposite, and this tells me that Sony knows what they're doing. It's about showing, not necessarily telling in this case. So yeah, I'm very impressed by Ghost of Tsushima's gameplay. It's obviously a day one buy for me, day one play. I most likely will stream myself at some point playing that game, so if any of you are interested in hanging out with me then when we do that, I can't promise it yet because it's, when it comes to me streaming games, especially new games, I'm always torn about whether or not I want to, share that experience or just kind of keep it to myself. I think a lot of you guys understand what I mean by that, but as of right now, I'm feeling pretty good about it, and I'm thinking it'll be a fun game to stream for a little while. Maybe not the entire thing, but hopefully you can look forward to that. We have True Witty saying, Ghost looks awesome, but Xbox are calling it a downgrade. Of course they are. Of course they are. Why wouldn't they? Because, of course, when you see 18 minutes of raw gameplay that looks that beautiful, I mean, why wouldn't the first thing that comes to your head be, well, that looks like a downgrade? I mean, come on. Like, this is where at some point, I just tune out and I just stop listening to people who say this shit, because it's just like, dude, like, have you not read the damn room? Like, you can think whatever you want, and you're free to express yourself, and let people know what you think, but almost everybody is saying, this looks freaking awesome, and there's a reason for that. Like, if you were to see something like this for Xbox, running on the Xbox One X right now, do you really think they'd be focusing on a visual downgrade? What do you think they'd be doing? We all know what they'd be doing. All right, so that's why I don't listen to those people. We also have Fred Vance. Once again, buddy, you're saying, I think there is still more than what they are telling us, gameplay and world discovery, but in a way that draws you. I actually agree with that, Fred. I think that there's a lot with Ghost of Tsushima we haven't seen yet. I think that we saw like a lot of in-depth stuff. Like, we have a pretty good understanding, I think, now of what exactly the gameplay is going to be like, what they're trying to achieve, but I do think that there is also just as much that they haven't revealed, and I think they kind of made that clear at the end of that demo, where they're like, we're very excited to show you much more but the world of Ghost of Tsushima in the coming weeks. So Eddie Lopez, you're saying, what's up, MBG, and what's up, Eddie? Thank you for showing up. Appreciate all the super chats. Appreciate you guys being here. I think this is probably, I think, one of the best podcasts I've had so far, just judging by how many people are here right now hanging out with me, which is very cool. Thank you guys so much for that. We already have over 500 likes, which, I remember when I first started this, it was difficult to even get to that point. So thank you guys so much. Let's see, something else I put here, and I think that this is the last thing I want to touch on with the Ghost of Tsushima gameplay before moving on to the next topic, and I want to touch on this because I do think it's actually pretty relevant. It seems that Sony has found, Sony has found a new format for their state of plays, or at the very least, they revealed to us that this is how they plan to showcase many of their games in the future. Now, I think this is kind of important to pay attention to, because a lot of people, I think, have been torn with the way Sony has handled their state of play, and I think that's kind of understandable, because in the past, Sony, I think they've always delivered something big towards the end of their state of plays, but there's no doubt that a lot of it has been geared more towards like showing VR titles, showing smaller indie titles, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think people were expecting a little bit more than that. Team A, as you're saying, when are you going to live stream games again, man? Honestly, dude, the first game I'll probably stream again, the first game will probably be The Last of Us 2. Probably not the whole thing, but maybe like the first like a couple hours or something like that. We're definitely going to we're definitely going to do Ghost of Tsushima as well. So you can look forward to that. But what I was trying to get at here with the state of play is I think that Sony is just making a much smarter move here by doing this, by them basically saying we are willing to dedicate an entire nearly 20-minute state of play to just showing a game and its raw gameplay and allowing the developers to tell you all about this game. I think that's genius, because if you think about the way it would normally work, this is where I'm kind of glad E3 is dying, because you start to see you start to realize that E3, as exciting as it is, and we all love that Super Bowl, gaming Super Bowl moment, but everything is condensed into such a short period of time, and it's all about the show, the showmanship, that I feel like a lot of times, the core of what people are excited to see or want to see is lost a lot of the times, which is we just want to see what the hell we're going to be playing and what it's going to be like moment to moment, right? Like what exactly we can expect. And this is where I just feel like, this is the future, right? This is the future of how Sony's going to handle their games, and they're not going to wait. They're not going to wait until E3 to show 5, 6, 7 games off and announce them all at one time, and then show 6 different gameplay demos, because it's awesome to get all of that at once, but at the same time, it's that's overload, man. Give these games room to breathe, and this is the perfect way for them to do that. So we have Eddie Lopez here saying, when do you expect the PS5 teardown? You know what? I'm going to say maybe sometime in July, but somebody, whether it be you, Eddie, or somebody else in the chat, at some point, try to remind me as we move on here. If I start to feel if we go through all the topics and I run out of stuff to talk about, remind me that there's something I have to say about when we can expect to see the PS5. I'm trying to make a mental note of it now. I unfortunately didn't write it down, but somebody remind me if I forget. You already know what's going to happen. I'm going to end this podcast, and I'm just going to fail to mention that at all, but maybe we'll make a dedicated video or something. But anyway, we have Morgan Kimes. You're saying, why is nobody talking about the ability to play with Japanese voiceover and Japanese cinema mode? That's crazy. I do agree, man. I've seen a lot of people talking about that, actually, and people seem to be very much excited for that, and I 100% agree that that is something. I mean, I know you're not saying this. You're saying that's crazy, but I think that that's Sucker Punch kind of showing that they're planning on going above and beyond to really kind of, add some unique features to this game that maybe would seem out of place with some other games, but in this game it fits perfectly. So I do agree. I think that's awesome. We have John Level 30 Calhoun who's saying at least Microsoft has the new Halo and Forza to look forward to, while us PlayStation fans enjoy The Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima, and a new Horizon Zero Dawn game. Ha ha. Yeah, I mean you're definitely going in hard there, John. I think we're going to have more to say in a little bit, because the next two topics we're going to be talking about, at least one of them, is very much Xbox related. But yeah, we're going to talk more about that in a little bit, John. And we also have Sir Speaks a Lot once again, buddy. You're saying, yeah, can we talk about the games? But how about that OnlyFans MVG? Where are the foot pics? Yeah, I don't know, man. I have to genuinely wonder, Sir Speaks a Lot, are we ever going to get through a podcast going forward without that being mentioned at least once? Never going to be an OnlyFans, and I don't, curse that guy, whoever it was. I think I know who it was, though, who brought that up. Forever cursed now. I'm the one that's cursed, but thank you for that, buddy. And we also have Kodim Bama, you're saying PC fanboys are just as bad as Xbox fans, if not worse. I feel like fanboys on all sides can be really bad, and I've been trying to make a genuine effort lately here on the channel to kind of not only, I've had tendencies in the past to kind of behave that way, and I feel like I've kind of outgrown it mostly, where it's it's just not worth getting into. When there's genuinely exciting stuff happening, just be excited. If you're not excited for it, or if you don't have anything good to say, maybe just find something else, maybe just go do something else. I don't know. But I agree, man, fanboys can be the worst. But yeah, I think that this is the future of how Sony's going to show off their games, how they're going to reveal their games. I think it's through state of play 100%. And I wonder, I'm assuming Sony's not going to do something similar for The Last of Us 2. Maybe they will, though. This is where I was kind of asking, are there going to be any more big surprises in the month of May when it comes to PlayStation? Can PlayStation fans expect anything significant? I don't necessarily know. I feel like maybe we got the best we're going to get, and that's okay because it was phenomenal. But I just wonder if like Sony's going to go quiet for a little bit before, again, resurfacing in June. And I'm just wondering if they're going to, how significant is the conversation, or the marketing, I should say, behind The Last of Us Part 2 going to be in comparison to Ghost of Tsushima? Because what this tells me about Ghost of Tsushima, giving it an entire state of play, the marketing is there. Sony's 100% behind this game. It's worth noting that some people were actually feeling a little bit concerned that maybe, maybe Sony hasn't been talking so much about Ghost of Tsushima or giving it enough love because they are not confident in it. Well, we know now that that's 100% not true. If anything, I would say if we don't hear more about The Last of Us Part 2 going into June, and we don't start, seeing more of that, and Sony continues to market Ghost of Tsushima very heavily, or maybe even more heavily than The Last of Us Part 2, you might actually see the opposite thing happening here, where maybe Sony is showing more confidence in Ghost of Tsushima, potentially, than The Last of Us Part 2, which is a very strange situation, and that conversation will continue later on as we, of course, continue to see how the marketing rolls out for both of these games. But that is going to do it for the second topic. So I want to ask you guys once again, be sure to hit that like button. We still have over 1,500 people watching. Thank you guys so much for being here with me. Hit that like button, show your support. It's the easiest way for you to help this podcast out. But we are moving right along here to the third topic. Now, the third topic is all about Xbox, because I think that there has certainly been some things said, potentially, I don't want to say revealed, but certainly some things said about Xbox and how they're going to proceed forward now that we see Sony really, the sleeping giant kind of not fully awaken here, but definitely show that they are getting ready to come out swinging, right? So apparently, Microsoft is expecting to go, quote, all out, unquote, during its July Xbox Series X event, at least according to the insider known as Shinobi. And this is what he is quoted with saying. And I believe he said this on a Reset Error, I don't know if it was a Reset Error forum or something, but he's a well-known insider, and he said the idea was always to basically lay all the cards on the table from first party and have a big blowout. And there's a ton of stuff to be excited about. Definitely big AAA Xbox game studios reveals, other big third parties on stage, just not necessarily exclusive. Now, this was said at around the same time that 343 Industries confirmed that Halo Infinite will be at the July Game Showcase, and this is what they wrote on the official Waypoint blog. You may have seen people talking about this lightly before, but we are extremely excited to confirm that Halo Infinite will be one of the many first-party titles included in the Xbox 2020 event in July. So I wrote down here, how do we feel after going over this info? Do we really believe that Microsoft will bring the big guns this time and not let the majority of gamers down? Will they really have those big AAA game reveals from their studios that gamers have been crying out for basically years now? Another good question is, even if they do, will it be enough to compete with whatever Sony potentially has planned to reveal during their next-gen game showcase? I have a good feeling that both Sony and Microsoft have been saving a lot of big game reveals for this moment, because they both know that if there's ever a time to sell people on your platform, it's right now. So, I know there was a lot packed in there, but this to me is, the way this is going to play out is going to be so interesting to pay attention to, because I have been saying for a while now that and I know I sound like a broken record, but we're getting ever closer to both Sony and Microsoft. Like, the time is coming for them to, now you have to show your hand. And when I say that, I'm not talking, I know that Sony hasn't showed the console yet, but I'm not talking about the console. I'm not talking about the controllers. I am talking about features, but more importantly, I'm talking about games. The time is coming for you to show your hand. And the truth is, I think Microsoft built a lot of excitement for basically the first half of 2020 and, of course, December 2019 going into 2020. They built so much momentum. They built up more goodwill than I've seen them have in a long time. And just when you thought things were really starting to heat up and they're like, come check out our next-gen showcase, they will be third-party games, no first-party yet, but make sure you tune in. People had very high expectations. We all know how that went. I'm not saying that killed their momentum entirely, but as you can see here, I think Phil Spencer, I didn't write this part down, but he took to Twitter and he answered somebody's tweet, or somebody was asking him a question about games and reveals and what's happening in the future. And basically what Phil Spencer said is, it's really hard to keep all the secrets, but we have, we're learning and we have a lot left to show. And I'm just like, Phil, please just stop talking. Please just stop. Because as much as I want to believe what you're saying, dude, how many times are you going to say this? If there was ever a time where Phil Spencer's, I'll just put it this way. A lot of people look at it as Phil Spencer already lost all his credibility when it comes to him hyping something up and talking about big game reveals. If this show happens in July and it doesn't really land with the majority of gamers and the majority of gamers are not hyped, then he's going to lose all credibility, dude. All credibility. We have Fred Vance. You're saying Xbox will show games, but with a disclaimer for what they expect it to look like on Xbox Series X. Yeah, you're taking a little shot there where that is, again, that didn't help them at all when they had their first next-gen third-party game showcase where they were basically saying, this is all what we expect games to look like. And again, that just, gamers are not dumb, man. That's not what gamers want to see. Gamers want to see the real thing. It doesn't have to be as mind-blowing, maybe, as you think it does, right? But if you are on it, that's what confuses the hell out of me, is Phil Spencer's all about, we're all about transparency and being open and honest, and then, everything they show, granted, I don't know if it was their decision or third-party decision, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you showed what you showed, and it's all this is in-engine. This is representative of what, they're targeting for the Xbox Series X. I'm just that's not how you do that, Microsoft. Now, the big question is this. Well, first we have Josh Z. You're saying all out could mean very different things to Microsoft, and you're not wrong, Josh. Again, this is where it's Microsoft, you use these big words, you get people excited, and time again, when it comes to the game showcases, you have disappointed almost everybody. Even the most loyal fans have gotten annoyed, So, I guess what I'm trying to say here is I don't feel nearly as confident as I did before we saw their first next-gen game showcase, and that they're actually going to deliver in July. What I will say is, at this point, it's not so much a question of what I think and what I'm anticipating. I think at this point, it's more along the lines of Microsoft and Xbox need to deliver. Okay, the need is there. It's not a question of if or will they, or they need to. It's literally, and I know that some people think I'm exaggerating here, I'm being, hyperbolic about it, but when I say it is sink or swim for them with this July event, I genuinely feel like I'm not exaggerating when I say that, because the time is now, Microsoft. And so, we have this insider Shinobi who, I'm not going to say whether or not I believe him, but a lot of people clearly do, and he's saying that there's definitely big AAA games that are going to be revealed from Xbox Game Studios, and he said there's a ton of stuff to be excited about. So we have Neva the dog. Thank you for that. You're saying keep it up. Thank you. I will do my best to keep it up. I appreciate your support. Appreciate everybody's support here. But I guess what I'm trying to say here, guys, is I do believe Shinobi. I do believe that Microsoft has been saving a lot of stuff. I think that there was a huge what's the best way to describe this? I think that Microsoft just was not aware of what the expectation was for their event, their first next-gen showcase event. All I can say is I hope that it's because they were saving everything, and now more than ever they have to be aware of what the expectation is for the July event. We have Fred Vance once again, buddy. You're saying Prediction for Sony will be to show their next-gen games with true gameplay to deliver the experience along with what you can do. End the show with a tease. Look at the console to reveal in August. So, okay, that's a pretty good prediction there, buddy. Again, I'm going to have a little bit more to say about this probably after we talk about this Microsoft thing here, because I want to talk about when exactly we can expect the PS5 to be shown off, when it's actually going to be revealed, because there is some information that I've seen floating around that I don't know if I believe it 100%. It does sound plausible. It does make sense. But before I get too derailed here, here's another question I have when it comes to this big July event. Okay, like, my question is for all the gamers out there who are looking forward to this event or who have any expectation for this event whatsoever. It could be hardcore Xbox fans, could be PlayStation fans, just casuals, whatever. My question is, what is the general expectation of the public? Now, obviously, you can let me know your thoughts in the chat or in the comments, but I'm going to tell you what I believe the general expectation is. Before I do, though, we have Codeine Bama. You're saying a new Fable could be big for Microsoft. They need new IPs too. So it seems like you were already thinking exactly what I was thinking, where I think the general expectation for the mass audience of gamers when tuning into this July event is we know we're going to see Halo. And I'm not saying nobody's excited for that, but when you already know that's going to be there, it takes away from it a little bit. But people are still going to be excited to see the gameplay, of course. We know we're going to get another Forza. We know that eventually there's going to be another Gears. So I'm not saying that if we see any of those things, it's not going to be exciting, because it can be, but what's really going to matter, in my opinion, to the mass audience, to the general audience. We also have True Witty. You're saying Xbox says gameplay, but they really mean cinematics deceptively. Yeah, that seems to be the case, unfortunately, as of right now for them. But in my opinion, the thing that people are really going to be looking for is games that we weren't expecting. And I know that at this point we're all expecting a new Fable, and I will say that I would count that as a game we weren't expecting, but at that point it's going to be like, how big is this game? Scale, scope, right? How good does this game look? Not just from a visual standpoint, but from gameplay. Is this the Fable return that everybody was really waiting for? The Initiative, when you show off their game, if it is in fact going to be a Perfect Dark reboot, how good is the game going to look? I mean, I'm expecting we're going to see some smaller stuff, right? Like, you'll see some indie stuff, you'll see certainly some AA stuff, but we need new IP as well. And I'm not trying to preemptively knock Microsoft, but if their only new big game reveals are reboots, that's fantastic. Like, that's great. That's something. And I'm sure that if they look good enough, people will be hyped as hell for them. But we need to see, I'm telling you, if this bare minimum expectation isn't met, I'm going to facepalm so hard, it's not even going to be funny. Like, I'm actually probably going to hurt myself. If we don't see Microsoft at least one new AAA IP, there will be problems. Now, I don't care if that has to come from your first party, or if you have to strike a deal, a second party deal, or even like a third party. But we need to see that bare minimum expectation met. And I think honestly, that's the expectation of the majority of gamers. And I don't think I'm wrong in saying that. We have Fred Vance who's saying Microsoft needs true exclusives, not timed exclusives. I do agree. I think you can have a healthy combination of both, but we need to see Microsoft really put the emphasis on you can only play this on an Xbox or within the Microsoft ecosystem. Sir Speaks a Lot, you're saying MBG, have you played Turok on the Xbox 360? What if they revived it? Halo and Gears are cool and all, but it's like eating the same thing for weeks. It's stale. Yeah, dude, I totally agree with the Halo and Gears thing. No offense against those games. This is like why I talked a little bit of crap on Gears 5 when it came out, because I was trying to say, like, look, you guys got Gears 5 coming out. We have Death Stranding. You can knock Death Stranding's gameplay all you want, but hey, it's something new. It's something fresh. And as a gamer, I'm always ready for something new and something fresh. I've not played Turok on the 360, though. I think it would be pretty cool if they revived it. I would be interested to see what that would look like. And we also have Alan Morton. You're saying it'll be the case of Phil's. I'm more excited for the games you didn't see. Yeah, God, I mean, You could tell like Phil's strong. His strong point is not marketing. I don't know what's up with. I don't know what's going on with Microsoft's marketing team. I don't know if they're doing that good of a job. They were for the whoever they have in charge for revealing the console. They're for sure doing a good job. But anything outside of that, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. We have True Witty. You're saying, I hope Fable is like Elder Scrolls. PlayStation needs one like that. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what to expect from a new Fable game. I guess my minimum expectation for that would be I just want it to look compelling. I mean, I want that for all games. Like when I see Ghost of Tsushima's gameplay, like that's compelling, man. Like when I say, I'm like, okay, I want to play that. Like I'm gonna make sure I buy that game and play it. Like Microsoft needs games that have that kind of pop to them, and it doesn't have to be through smoke and mirrors. Like they need to show games that people are like, holy shit, did you see that? I want to play that, right? Get people excited. That's all it comes down to, man. Get people excited to play your games, right? Don't get them excited about what you might announce. I mean, we do that all the time here on the channel, but that's because our expectation is Sony has delivered really great games on a pretty consistent basis. Let's speculate and kind of think about what we can expect from them. When it comes to Microsoft, it's like, I mean, I could do that all day, but that expectation is never met, or barely ever, if at all. So we also have Big Balls Berto. You're saying all Sony needs to do is show one knockout of a game. And that's, you bring up a good point there, man, because the question I asked here is, will whatever Microsoft shows, even if their showcase is massive in July, will it be enough to compete with Sony? And I say that because, dude, like, I think, a lot of people sit back and they say, oh, well, Microsoft's been saving stuff for a long time. Why do you think their E3 2017, 2018, 2019, right, in rapid succession here, why do you think all their E3s have been such a letdown for the past couple years, for so long? Well, it's because they've been saving stuff. They've been building it up. They've been acquiring these studios, building new studios, and allowing them to really, get their games rolling before they reveal them, and they're saving it for their next-gen game reveal. And I think that makes sense. That is logical, right? But I just don't know that anything they could show is going to hit as hard as if Sony were to just reveal a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. Right? Like, I don't know if that's going to happen. I feel like they could compete if their games that they reveal have as much pop as the games that Sony's going to reveal. But this is where people already have the excitement there for sequels and new IP, of course. But, like, again, Horizon 2, what is it going to be? Like, what if Sony teases the next God of War? Like, how is Microsoft supposed to compete with that? And this is where I don't know what to expect from Sony. I don't know what to expect exactly, other than I know that Sony is aware that people's expectations are high, just like they are for Microsoft's. In some cases, maybe some people's expectations for Sony are even higher than what people are expecting from Microsoft. But I think people are just so much more confident in Sony being able to deliver that, right? And I know that, like, Xbox fans always get defensive, like, but we got all these studios. It's like, dude, it doesn't matter. Like, there's a difference between having the studios and having the talent in those studios. And more importantly, there's a difference between having those studios and having studios that have proven what they're capable of. Now, I'm not trying to knock Microsoft Studios. I'm sure they do have a lot of talent there, but this is where, again, anybody who doesn't think Microsoft still has a very steep mountain to climb, they do. They really do. And the question is, I don't even think it's a question of can they reach the same height that Sony can or is. I don't even think that's the question anymore. I think, like, can they even climb that damn mountain? That's the question people have at this point. And I think that's a fair question to ask after their first next-gen game showcase just fell flat on its face. We have David. You're saying, I just want a new Infamous game with Cole as the protagonist. Yeah, he died in one of the endings of Part 2, but I don't care. LOL. Yeah, I think a lot of people want that from Sucker Punch as well. A lot of people do want them to return to the Infamous series, and I've heard a lot of people say that they would like to see Cole return, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen, dude. I think, honestly, if Ghost of Tsushima is going to be a big hit, which it's looking like it is, you're probably going to see a Ghost of Tsushima 2, if anything. Let me see here. I feel like there's one last thing I want to say about this topic before moving on, and what it is I want to say is that the people who are out here saying, well, you just wait. Microsoft has all these things, all these cards that they're not playing yet, that they're saving. They've been saving, right? They're saving them to reveal them at the right moment. Even if that is true, I think these people who are saying this, maybe they're forgetting or they're failing to mention, is that Sony's been doing this same thing. If you think about all of the stuff that Sony has revealed and announced in terms of games in the past 2 years, it's all been stuff that's for the PS4 that we've either known about for a while or it's nothing really big or massive. And that's important to pay attention to, because what this tells me is that Sony has also been doing the same thing. Not only do we know that they've been saving these sequels, I mean, we already heard that apparently Horizon Zero Dawn was at one point meant to be a PS4 game, but they're like, we're going to save this for PS5. You know why they did that? Because they could do that. Because they knew we got Death Stranding, we got Days Gone, we got Last of Us 2, we got Ghost of Tsushima. We wouldn't even be able to squeeze the Horizon 2 in there even if we had it ready to go. Same thing with this Blue Point Games remake. It's going to be big. They've been saving that. What about Insomniac Games? They're clearly working on something else besides Spider-Man. All this stuff they've been saving. And there's probably more I'm failing to even mention here. Guerrilla Games, their second team. What are they working on? You see what I'm saying? Sony planned for this, just like Microsoft did. So anybody who's thinking that Sony is going to be the one with their pants, caught with their pants down, I don't think so. Now, I could be wrong, and I would be devastated if that was true. If Sony, for some reason, was just behind the ball here, and they just couldn't, they didn't have enough stuff ready. Skylar18, you're saying, I'm 28 years old. Just show me some mature-themed games and not the cartoony kid stuff like Nintendo, and I'm sold. You bring up another really good point, Skylar18. That is something that a lot of people have been asking for, especially even the Xbox fan base. They've been asking for a long time, like Microsoft, please take a page from Sony's book. You don't have to copy them note for note, but damn, take a page from their book and start making some more adult-themed, mature games, right? Not everything has to be that way. I mean, look at God of War. Like, God of War, it's fantasy, it's dark, but it has this mature tone to it that you can tell, this was made for mostly adults in mind, not children, not just for the general audience either. And so we have Sir Speaks a Lot once again. Thank you, buddy. You're saying, I think Microsoft's problem next generation is that they did not have memorable titles this gen. If they are going to release new games next gen, they have to play the waiting game to establish them. Yeah, I think what you're trying to say here, Sir Speaks a Lot, is basically that Sony's, one of their biggest strengths is that they have, they can play the sequel game now just as much as they want to play the new IP game, right? If you understand what I'm saying here. And that's because Sony basically took a bunch of risks this generation. They let their talent shine this generation with new stuff. Granted, God of War itself is a reboot, or a soft reboot, but still, you look at things like Horizon, you look at Days Gone, right? You look at Spider-Man. I know Spider-Man isn't a new IP, but, still, you look at the stuff that they've done, and you could just tell that, they've, even things like Bloodborne, stuff that, we don't even know if there's a sequel in the pipeline in the future, but even stuff like Bloodborne, taking chances with second parties as well. This is all stuff that Microsoft has to establish this current generation coming up, the next generation, I mean, that they failed to establish this generation. Now, I don't want to take all credit away from Microsoft. That's not to say that they haven't tried, because they did, and it would be unfair for me to say that they didn't. They tried with Sunset Overdrive. They tried with games like Rise. They tried with games like Quantum Break, but it's just, I played a lot of these games, and they were missing that X factor. I mean, granted, Sunset Overdrive, I didn't finish it, but I did play it. I could see what people loved about that. Rise, in my opinion, was a really underrated game that should have gotten a second chance. And I feel like that was just, unfortunately, people were too hard on it. And I think it just kind of scared Microsoft off from doing a sequel. And I think in Microsoft's eyes, if in order for a game to be worthy of a sequel, it has to be a mega hit. Not just a hit, not even just a great game, it has to be a mega hit. And I think that that's the mentality that they need to get away from, where that's not true, man. Like, sometimes not every game is going to be a mega hit right out of the gate. I think Sony understands that. But, it just, you have to take some chance. So, David, you're saying how the turntables. Yes, the Office reference there, how the turntables. But, I guess what I'm trying to say here, and I've been trying to say this for a while, and just, I guess, finish up here so we can move on to the next topic, is like, I really think that Microsoft's time to really, if you're gonna have the AAA game reveals, if you're gonna win gamers on your side, or even just get them excited, I mean, I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. I think it's at a point where I don't necessarily know that Microsoft has a chance in hell of convincing PlayStation gamers or PlayStation fans, current PlayStation 4 owners. I don't think they have a chance in hell in basically convincing them, like, oh, you know what? When I decide to upgrade the next gen, forget about the PS5. I'm going to get the Series X this time. I think, if anything, their best bet is you need to try to convince gamers why they're going to want to buy an Xbox with their PlayStation. I know that may sound cocky, but I just think it's true, man, especially when you think about digital content and stuff like that. I got to adjust myself here. My freaking legs falling asleep. We have Beast, I'm assuming that's your name, Beast Sniper. Thank you for that donation, buddy. I think that's really where Microsoft is at right now, where I'll end this with just one last analogy or metaphor that I've kind of been alluding to this entire time, where it's like, if you imagine both Sony and Microsoft are climbing a mountain with the PlayStation and Xbox brand, not only is PlayStation really far ahead of that climb than Xbox is, but they've planted a couple flags along the way as well that basically say, hey, like, we've been here, we've already done this, and we're moving on to even bigger and better things, right? To where Microsoft, they're climbing the mountain and they haven't given up, but they haven't planted any of those flags yet. They haven't hit any of those milestones, and these are all things that they're going to have to do with the upcoming generation that I think, honestly, even for the most hardcore PlayStation fan, I think in a way, deep down, we're all rooting for them. Like, you can do it, Microsoft. Like, please, you have to do it. Like, Sony needs that competition. They do. I mean, granted, Sony has proven they've competed with themselves, and they are competing with themselves in many ways. But there's no doubt that having that competition just adds a whole nother layer of, like, keeping Sony on their toes, right? So that they don't ever getting complacent. And I think we all just want that. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at it now. And I think that this July event, if you want to go with the mountain metaphor here, is Microsoft's biggest opportunity, where basically, like, here's your shortcut. There's a shortcut where you can lessen that gap by a significant margin if you take that shortcut. But unfortunately, that shortcut, it's kind of an oxymoron here, because it's actually not a shortcut at all. It's actually showing a lot of impressive games that a lot of work and love and care and effort and talent has went into. So that's how you're going to create that shortcut for yourself. But the only way you're going to create that shortcut is by putting a lot of work into making it become a reality. So hopefully I didn't lose you guys there with that metaphor. Believe it or not, I love talking in metaphors. I don't do it enough here on the channel. I'm going to have to start doing that more. But we have iSkylar18. You're saying Gears 5 is pretty equal to Sony IP, yet it hardly got any praise. That's a high-quality title to me. So what does Xbox fans even want? I mean, the thing about Gears is it's not... This is a bizarre situation where it's not so much about the quality anymore. Like, we know that Gears 5, if you play it on the Xbox One X, is a high-quality game, but I think as... I forget who I think maybe it was Sir Speaks a Lot, or somebody said it earlier, it's just kind of stale. Right? Like, unless you're willing to kind of soft reboot the formula, kind of similar to what God of War did, and really hit the refresh button, it could be the highest quality game ever, but the formula is kind of stale, and people are ready for something completely new. That's what I get from that. So it's not a matter of quality in that case. It's a matter of, how fresh is it? Let me see here. Josh Z, you're saying Microsoft will be the next Sega, in your opinion? Yeah, hopefully not. I know you meant to say Sega there, but hopefully not. I don't want that to be the case, honestly. We have Juan de la Rua. You're saying, been wanting to buy Xbox, but Halo and Gears are not worth $400. Yeah, see, dude, that's the thing, dude. Like, Juan, you're I think you're speaking for a lot of people who haven't bought an Xbox yet, where it's like those games aren't worth it to you. And I know that those franchises are very important to Microsoft and a lot of current Xbox fans. But what would, in my opinion, and I know I'm speaking for you, but what would make you want to go spend that $400 or more potentially on even the next gen Xbox is new games, things that are different, that aren't Halo, Gears, or Forza, right? We also have David, you're saying, and Sea of Thieves was garbage. Make your own fun? What the hell is that? That should be their job, not mine. Ouch, being harsh. Yeah, dude, I mean, I drank you might hear my stomach growling. I'm actually pretty hungry, so I forgot to eat something before this podcast, so I feel like every podcast I have to say this. I apologize if you hear really weird noises in the background. That's actually my stomach growling. I don't know how well this mic picks it up, but anyway, before I get totally sidetracked, you're going in hard here on Sea of Thieves, man. Like, I drank the Sea of Thieves Kool-Aid when it first came out, and at first I was like, oh yeah, this is great, playing with my friends on a ship, and for the first like hour or two it was fun, and then after going like 6 to 8 hours into it, I was like, oh my god, like, yeah, make your own fun. Like, I did make my own fun for about an hour, but guys, like, come on. And I mean, I know people are excited. Look, man, like, we have that game Everwild. That is a game that was announced for Xbox, and you know, a lot of people, a lot of Xbox hardcore fans are like, yeah, well, you guys are forgetting Hellblade 2 and Everwild. Like, Hellblade 2 is going to be awesome. We don't know if it's AAA yet. We haven't seen much of it yet, but it will be awesome. Everwild, who's excited for that? I'm sorry, like, I'm not trying to be a dick here. I'm just saying, like, I don't know, man. Maybe within our subsection, I can tell you I don't think many people are that excited for that game. You know, especially after Sea of Thieves. You know, I don't know. I'm not trying to hate on it. I'm just saying, like, for me personally, that's not, like, those are not the type of game announcements I'm hoping to see from Microsoft. I'll just put it that way. And we have straight from VA1. You're saying, do you think Microsoft will have any surprises at its event as far as new exclusive IPs? I sure hope so, buddy. I really do. We have Sir Speaks a Lot. You're saying, don't be shy. Post the address so we can send food. Nah, dude, that's okay. That's okay. I don't need any, but you got the support you guys show me here on the channel is more than enough. So thank you so much for that, buddy. But I want it straight from VA1. I wanted to talk to this for just a moment. Any surprises? I mean, there has to be some surprises, because it's gotten to a point where we've been waiting on Microsoft for so long that people are expecting a lot of surprises. But I would be happy if we could just get a few. I gotta tell you that I did hear, and I don't know how much truth there is to this, honestly speaking, because it's coming from different places, but I heard that there's apparently going to be a third-party exclusive deal from a prominent Japanese developer. I've heard some people say maybe From Software that Microsoft is going to reveal during this event, and it's going to be an Xbox exclusive. Now, that sounds pretty pretty exciting to me if it's true. That sounds like it has potential. I don't know how true it is, again, because it is just a rumor, but that's what I've heard. That would be a great surprise. We have two donations here. First, I'm going to go with Oe Akarumi. You're saying, in the words of Chris Jericho, Xbox will never, ever be the same again. I think you might be right about that. We have to see. I think this is their last opportunity. But we have a very generous donation. Thank you to everybody who donates, but especially thank you to the generous donations here. Jeremiah Rourke, you're saying, Xbox reminds me of the guy who has the muscle but doesn't know how to use it. Phil says they are listening and learning, so I hope they deliver. I'll buy both consoles. I just don't know which one will be first. And you know, I like what you're saying here, because you're clearly being very honest in that, like, you're not hating on Xbox. You just genuinely, I think how you feel is how most gamers feel, where it's like, yeah, it's like they have all this stuff. They have the resources, they have the money, they have the powerful console, but they just don't know how to use it right. And in the end, we end up getting games like Crackdown 3 being showcased alongside the Xbox One X, and it's just, it makes people turn around and look at each other, like, scratch your head, like, what the hell, or like, what? You know, meanwhile, their competition is showing these, like, near photorealistic games. And so, you are saying that Phil says that they are listening and learning and you hope they deliver. I hope the same thing, man. Like, I don't mean to sound rude towards, like, Phil. Like, again, I have nothing personally against Phil Spencer. He seems like a decent guy, right? He seems like a nice guy. But I just think that, like, he does a lot of talking and he says these things that he has to know. And if he doesn't know, surely somebody around him has to inform him, like, dude, you have to understand, like, your fans and gamers hang on to every word you say, dude. And you've been saying a lot of stuff for years now, and people get very excited about those things you're saying, and you gotta not let them down, and you gotta make sure that if you're gonna say these things, you're really gonna deliver. And I'm telling you guys, I hope Microsoft, and I could be overextending my thought here, right? Like, I may be off the mark, but I really hope that Phil Spencer and company, the marketing team there, I really hope that they are well aware of just how much pressure is on them to really deliver with this July event. Because as far as I can see, this July event is basically the E3 replacement. It's the big showcase. You got to bring the big guns, Microsoft. It is, you no longer have a choice, and we have some insiders claiming that, alluding to that Microsoft may have some big guns. They do have some big guns. They have exciting stuff. You got to bring it. And here's the thing, guys. You bet your ass I'm going to be streaming that. And you're going to see, like, if anything, I feel like I'm the perfect example of whether or not you're going to be able to tell whether Microsoft succeeds or fails. I mean, I'm not saying, maybe I'm plugging my stream way ahead of time here. I'm saying, hey guys, make sure you watch my stream and nobody else's. Because I know that, there's probably going to be a lot of Xbox guys streaming that day. But I'm just saying, like, I am a PlayStation-centric channel. I'm a former huge Xbox fanboy. I'll obviously never return to that state. But I've been rooting for Xbox for a long time. And just, I know it's not on my channel, but for those of you who watched my live stream of the Game Awards, you saw how genuine my reaction was and how shocked I was when we saw that console revealed at that point. And then also Hellblade 2. That was genuine, and I was very excited. And I was like, okay, now I'm starting to understand maybe Microsoft does have some big plans. So what I'm trying to say is, like, when we watch that July event together, guys, I'll tell you, like, you'll know based off of my reaction whether or not I think Microsoft has succeeded. And maybe I'm giving myself too much credit there, but again, like, I don't know. We have Clinton Hughes here. You're saying new Sony IPs set them up perfectly this generation, whereas Microsoft IPs left fans with nothing to anticipate other than Halo for next gen. It's sad. Yeah, dude, Clinton, I feel depressed when I think about that, because I feel like there were actually some good new IPs that Microsoft put out this generation, and I think one of the most crushing things for me as an Xbox fan is when it started to kind of slowly sink in that, dude, you're not going to get any sequels to these games, man. Like, you're not, like, I thought Quantum Break was pretty good. It wasn't the best, but it had potential. And I was so depressed when I saw that, because it just wasn't the huge mega hit that Microsoft was expecting it to be, that we weren't going to get anything more. Granted, we did get Control, but, like, what if we got Control as an Xbox exclusive? That's the potential that was there for a game like Quantum Break. And if Control was their next project, Microsoft should have tried to work harder to be like, oh, we want to secure this because we think that this could be big. And Control was awesome, right? That would have been a great exclusive, but it wasn't, And I think about games like Rise, Son of Rome, and again, even Sunset Overdrive. Now Sony owns Insomniac Games, and I'm sure there's others I'm failing to mention here, but I don't know, guys. Like, for some reason with Microsoft, that's just how they operate, where if it's not a big mega hit, they're not willing to try to greenlight, to give it a second chance to reach its full potential, and that bothers me. We also have, I'm just going to call you GTN, because I cannot pronounce your name. If I tried to, I would butcher it. You're saying, any specific game you're expecting from Xbox? Love from India. Well, thank you. It is always mind-blowing to me to think that there's people from all around the world tuning in to just listen to me talk and rant, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. And you're asking if there's any specific game from Xbox that I'm expecting. I'm interested in the Fable. Like, I've been hearing that the Fable game is going to be darker. It's going to be more gritty, somewhat more realistic. It's going to have, like, near photorealistic graphics. And if that's true, and it's going to be like an action RPG, I'm on board. I am on board. I'm not a Fable fan by any stretch of the imagination. I've never really played the Fable games. But to me, that like it could be Fable, it could be called anything else. That sounds exciting to me. A darker, realistic fantasy action RPG. Okay, sure. Like I'm all for that, and I just hope it delivers. I'm also excited to see if this rumor is true about the rumor about the exclusive Japanese title. I'm really interested to see if that's going to turn out to be true, because if it really is from Software, that would be huge. Like that would be like my jaw would be dropped at that point. Like holy shit, like I was not expecting that. Kind of similar to what we saw with Bloodborne with the PS4, right? But seeing something similar. I just don't know how realistic it is for that to be from Software, because they're neck deep in Elden Ring right now, which I'm also very excited for. I just got to take another drink here. My my voice always gets hoarse. I guess that's what I get for being excited all the time, right? But yeah, guys. I mean, we've talked a lot here about Xbox, and I wanted to highlight some of the things that are being said and just kind of talk about what my expectations are for this July event, because I want you guys to believe me when I say this, because I know that there's a lot of people who probably doubt what I'm saying is true, but it really is. When I say that I want Microsoft and Sony to be neck and neck in terms of excitement with the stuff that they show, I genuinely mean that, because going into next generation, the number one thing I care about more than anything is I want great games to play. The more the better. Whether that's first party, second party, or third party, I do not care. I just want great games. And I guess I just know that Microsoft has the resources clearly. They have the ability to generate the talent, to pay for the talent. They've clearly been doing that. And I just feel like for a long time, Microsoft has potential. The potential has always been there. They have just failed to deliver on it. Just like that guy said earlier, still have you here. Just like Jeremiah said earlier, it's like they have the muscle, they don't know how to use it. I feel like they have the potential, they're just not utilizing it. They're not tapping into it fully like Sony has been, and like even Nintendo has been with their games, right? Granted, they're two very different types of games, but still. People just don't look at Xbox's games the same way that they look at Sony's and Nintendo's, and I want to see Xbox achieve that level. And so when we come to this July event, guys, it's going to be a good time. And whether it goes positively, whether it goes negatively, I think that, it'll be a good time for us here. And I think we're going to have a lot to talk about when that happens. So with that being said, we are moving on to the next topic here, which I think this is where I'm going to insert that topic I've been alluding to this whole time, talking about when we can expect the PlayStation 5, because I know that this is a question that a lot of people have, and it just seems to me that, people are kind of all over the place with when they expect to actually see the PlayStation 5 console, and I wanted to just kind of talk about what I've been hearing and kind of talk, and I don't mean to say it like I'm an insider and I've been talking to people on the inside. No. Not like that. I'm talking about like what I've seen other people who claim to have some type of inside knowledge, what they've been saying. So we're gonna talk about that a little bit. But before we do, I see that we still have nearly 1,500 people watching, and as usual, I just have to thank you guys for sticking around here and hanging out with me. It really means a lot. It makes me feel good, and I enjoy it. So make sure you hit that like button. Somehow we are already almost at 800 likes. Guys, if we could hit 1,000 likes before the end of this podcast, that would be absolutely phenomenal. So thank you guys so much for showing your support. Hit that like button. But talking about the PlayStation 5, is it going to be revealed this month? Is it going to be revealed next month? Is it going to be revealed later than June? And what does that mean for the games? Well, I put out this tweet. I put out this string of tweets, and I'm going to read it to you. I said, I'm hearing we may not see the PlayStation 5 itself in June, but we will see PlayStation 5 games revealed. If this is true, it's because Sony's cooling solution is so innovative that they are not willing to reveal the console to the public/investors until it has been mass-produced. Apparently, Sony is afraid that if they reveal the console and can't prove to investors that they can in fact mass-produce it, with this cooling solution, their stock will drop. There's also the added benefit of being able to wait and see if Microsoft reveals the price of the Xbox Series X first, so they can adjust accordingly if they feel it necessary. I'm actually fine with this because I'd rather see games, honestly. Of course, we all want to see the console, but if I had to choose just one first, it would be the games. I'm curious to know what you guys think about this, and that's what I tweeted out. And somebody had asked me, well, first of all, false image, hello, thank you for that. Somebody had asked me, like, where I'm hearing this from. Like, am I just making this up? Am I claiming to be an insider? No. The two sources I've heard this from are from Red Gaming Tech. I think he's the first one I heard this from. And then also Moore's Law is Dead. Now, these are two individuals who claim to be in communication with individuals who are very familiar with Sony's plans and how they're handling the PlayStation 5. And they're talking to people who can provide answers to them as to why we haven't seen the console yet, why Sony's been kind of so slow, even though they haven't really been that slow. Everything still seems on track with rolling it out, you know? And I gotta say that I don't know if I believe this 100%. However, it does sound incredibly plausible for multiple reasons. Namely, the idea of this cooling solution. We know that Sony is putting a lot into their cooling solution. We also know that Sony, I think it's safe to say that they have proven that they know people care more about the games than anything. But to be honest, guys, I don't know what to think with this. And I guess that's why I'm not really making it a dedicated topic, because I don't know how much I have to say about it other than that. I just think that it could be true, it could not be. Either way, though, what I said was true in that if I had to choose, like if I was forced to choose, like you can only pick one to see before the other. Do you see the console first or do you see the games? Well, you know, I'm eager. Show me the games, right? Like, I know the console will be coming. I don't care what it looks like. I mean, I'm going to care when we see it, obviously. But I'm just saying, like, the console could be the ugliest thing ever created. If it can play these great games, that's all I'm going to care about. But obviously, we're going to have a lot of conversation when we see this console for the first time and what it's going to look like. But I just think that it does kind of make sense because, you know, Mark Cerny has put a lot of emphasis on this cooling solution. When they were talking to Digital Foundry, they were emphasizing it then. And they're saying that they're going to have a console tear down. And, it's very interesting to me that, you know, if this is true, apparently Sony literally, like, their solution is so innovative and so off the wall and so not normal that they're literally afraid that if they were to show like a hand-built console, like for what they said is basically Sony wants to take a console right off the conveyor belt, right off the track that's being mass-produced and hold it up and say, this is off the production line, this is not custom made, this is proof that we have nailed it down. And that makes sense to me because if it's really that insane, you know, we've already seen like the negative rumors pop up where, oh man, Sony's facing overheating issues, but even if you put those rumors aside, which are just ridiculous and unfounded about the overheating aspect, there's no doubt that when you look at the clock speeds inside of the PS5, yeah, this thing is going to need serious cooling. And they're going to have to make sure that that is top priority. And apparently they've locked it all in. It's just a matter of waiting. Now, I heard that mass production of these consoles begins in June. And so we could see it revealed in June. But we also have to understand that Sony has also made it clear, and this is another reason why I do believe this, they've made it clear that they are pretty much willing to wait Microsoft out on the pricing thing because to them the price is really important. And they did say in the past that like that's something they're kind of waiting on. So I don't know, when you combine all of this together, there's some stuff that is factual, some stuff that is true. We did hear that, you know, there was the potential that Sony might run into issues trying to find, getting enough components with like the not the storage, but well, the SSDs, of course, and how expensive they're going to be, but also the cooling system. And then you also think about them basically saying that they're kind of waiting to reveal the price because they want to make sure they hit the right price point, saying they're being, they're potentially willing to be more flexible with it. I think we might not see the PS5 actually revealed, or at the very least the price of the console revealed until June or July, I mean. So we have David here saying, if I could pay $1,000 to get the PlayStation 5 right now, I would. Dude, same here. Same here, man. I'd probably pay more than that if I could afford to do so, but yeah, definitely. Chris B., you're saying that's why I don't think it will be a tower. Towers are normal, and no one would look at a Sony tower and think it was crazy. Yeah, you do bring up a really good point, Chris. That I think is pretty telling that Sony may be going for a more traditional, smaller design, and they want people to talk about it. They want people to talk about their design in a very positive way, and the best way to do that is to surprise people, not in a bad way, like, oh my god, that's hideous. Like a lot of the conversation around the Xbox Series X was mixed. It was good and bad. I mean, I say bad because there were people making fun of it, refrigerators, coolers, stuff like that, right? But I do think that Sony cares a lot about that. You know, one of the things that Sony got a lot of praise for, especially compared to the original Xbox One VCR-looking console, was the design of the console, and also knowing it's the more powerful one. So this does make a lot of sense to me, guys. We have, I almost called you somebody else. That I guess, you know, there's so many people who do super chats. Thank you, guys. I get your names mixed up sometimes, but we have Player One. You're saying, I don't know if you mentioned or heard, but after the June 4th event, Push Square said Sony is having a state of play in August. I did hear about that, and this is fascinating to me because this is coming from Jeff Grubb. For those who are not aware, Jeff Grubb is the one who's claiming, and he seems to be very confident, he has not backed off of this claim that Sony's game showcase or a big PlayStation 5 related thing is happening, and it's going to be game related on June 4th. I made a video about it yesterday, and he said that there's going to be a whole slate of games. There's going to be a lot of games. And so people are now wondering, like, well, can we expect to see the console there? And so he also updated his, chart where he put out a chart basically kind of hinting at all the stuff we can expect throughout the coming months that are next-gen related. And he said that early August there will be a state of play. And that's all he said as far as I know. He didn't say whether or not it's going to be a console reveal event or if it's going to be more about games, but he just said it's going to be a state of play. Now, obviously, the state of play cannot be dedicated to current gen if it's coming that late. There's no way. So what this tells me is that in June, we're going to get maybe the proper event where they show games. And the question is, are they going to show the entire hand? Are they going to show all their games? I'm going to say no. The reason why I'm going to say that is because, well, Sony's well aware that Microsoft is doing their big event in July. So if Sony shows stuff to get people excited in June, but they're also not showing everything, and then you let Microsoft take their turn, and regardless of whether or not I always have motorcycles driving by, guys. It's insane. There's so many motorcycles that drive by. But, regardless of how Microsoft's event goes in July, whether it goes really positive or really negative, or just kind of people are indifferent to it, either way, it would be in Sony's benefit to still have more to show and reveal in July. And it could very well, or in August, and that could be the console. We don't know. There's a lot we don't know, but we're just trying to figure this out as we go along. And I know that a lot of you listening right now, you like to do the exact same thing I like to do, which is speculate. Speculating is fun. It's not as exciting as getting those big announcements, but it's because we are all very excited. We know we're getting closer than ever, but we are closer than ever before to all of this stuff happening. And so, yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't know. What I do know is that we still have a pretty decent amount of topics to go through right now. I'm looking at my papers here, and yeah, we got to get this ball rolling, or else this is going to end up being like a 3.5 hour podcast. And frankly, I don't think my voice could survive that. So we're going to move along here. You let me know in the chat, and also let me know in the comments for those who are sticking around and watching after the fact. Let me know when you expect the PS5 to be revealed. I don't know. I want to say that there's a decent chance we could see it in June, but I would not be the least bit surprised at all if we don't see it until July, maybe even August. But either way, I don't think it matters because we know we're going to see it, and I think regardless of when we see it, it's going to be awesome. And so I guess just to finish off, what I'm trying to say is I think that regardless of when we see it, the intention, Sony's intention is they want people to talk about it in a very exciting way. Basically oh wow, I did not expect it to look that small. Final note here. We did talk about Sony's cooling solution and how there was a patent that was published and it was made public, and and people who knew what they were looking at with the. You're saying WB just tweeted the Batman game is be revealed on May 21st. I don't know if that's true or not. Let me check here. But before I get totally off track here, because that's super distracting, I wish I didn't read that yet. Apparently, Sony, this patent they published, it alluded to their cooling solution, and it pointed towards something very innovative where it's being cooled from both the top and the bottom simultaneously. And people who evaluated this patent and who knew what they were looking at and reading kind of came to the same conclusion, which is basically what this is telling us is that Sony's going to be able to make this console potentially significantly smaller than people might be anticipating when it comes to heating and the power factor. So, yeah. Fred Vance, you're saying there has been a rumor that has yet to be confirmed, but Sony may have struck exclusive deals with third-party developers. This has yet to be confirmed. I would fully anticipate it. We already saw that they struck one exclusive deal with the Godfall developers. That is a third-party exclusive deal. It's going to PC as well, but I think Sony doesn't care anymore when it comes to third-party, even if they're funding it. Although Sony's not funding Godfall, Sony funded Predator Hunting Grounds, and that's also a PC game. So Sony has proven that they are willing to fund some of these games that are going to PC just as long as they're not going to Xbox. And they've also proven that they are willing to help with games that are timed exclusives. So yes, I do expect that. Mr. Hamster, you're saying the bikes outside are Xbox Mafia searching for you. Yeah, that's a negative way of looking at it, though. But some people have said that all these, these Harleys you hear like real loud. It's Deacon St. John and Boozer and the gang from Days Gone, but maybe a little bit cringy there. But anyway, guys, moving on from that, we have another topic that we are. I'm getting this. I'm looking at my Twitter feed as I'm talking here live, and I see from Gaming Bolt, maybe this is what you guys were referring to in the chat, PlayStation 5's rumored June event to be a hefty next-generation showcase, more PS5 games to be revealed in August. Rumor. Let me click on this, guys. I'm definitely going to make a dedicated video to this if this is new info. But JV Rod, thank you so much for the generous donation. But I gotta say, guys, the support you guys have been showing me on this channel lately, I mean, it damn near brings a tear to my eye. You guys are absolutely amazing, and it blows me away that we can, we built such an awesome community here, and just thank you guys so much for that. I really, I know I thank you guys a lot, and I spend a lot of time doing that every time I stream, but I just want you to know it is really appreciated. It really is. Especially at a time like this and everything that's going on in the world. But JV Rod, you're saying, hey bud, I know this is off topic, considering this is mostly a gaming channel, but I'm curious to know what is my favorite movie director? Not even my favorite movie director. Oh geez, that's a I mean, I'm a big fan of a lot of the stuff that Martin Scorsese does. I'm really one of my favorite movies of all time is The Departed. I'm also a fan of I'm not too big on movie directors. That's the thing. I can think of the movies, but I often forget. But I know Christopher Nolan also pops in my head, where he does almost everything he makes is like a masterpiece. And I know that who is it? M. Night Shyamalan. He's not one of my favorite, but I know he gets he's kind of hit or miss, but I think that some of, what he did with The Sixth Sense, I really like that. But I don't know, man. To be honest, I would have to kind of look more into some of my favorite movies and try to touch up on some of my favorite movie directors or some of my favorite movies to see who's directing them, because I know that there's a lot that come to mind. I know the Wachowski brothers, although I think they're sisters now, and I know that they're making, at least one of them is making The Matrix 4, but the original Matrix, the Wachowski brothers at the time, goddamn, does it get any better than that? That movie is probably one of my all-time favorite movies, if not my favorite, so they're up there for sure. But thank you so much for that donation, buddy. I'll have to get back to you on that, JV Rod, because you show a lot of support here on the channel, and I want to give you a proper answer. So later on, I will have to, as long as I can remember, look into directors and try to really, really narrow that down. But thank you for that, buddy. And we also have Neva the Dog. Neva, hopefully I'm saying your name correctly, and you're thanking me. No, thank you. I appreciate those super chats. But let me just read this here live, and maybe I'll make a separate video on it. But it says, with the PS5 slated to launch this holiday, we're surely approaching the time when Sony will deem it appropriate to fully unveil their next-gen plans. And sure enough, rumors have been swirling over the last couple of weeks that a PS4 reveal event is scheduled to take place this June. Those rumors now seem to be solidifying. In a tweet listing major upcoming events in the industry over the summer, GamesBeat reporter Jeff Grubb, who has previously claimed that the PS5 reveal event will happen on June 4th, mentioned the event once again, and curiously enough, also listed another State of Play broadcast for August. In a follow-up tweet, he elaborated on both, saying that the June event should be a hefty next-gen showcase, so I didn't know he said that. While the State of Play, and I didn't know Jeff Grubb said anything about the State of Play either, he said, the State of Play in August will be similar to previous State of Play shows, but this time we'll be focusing on PS5 games. This follows from Grubb recently stating that Sony will show off an entire slate of games. Okay, so that's interesting. I'm sure we could probably fit that into a video, but we have Oe Akarumi again. You're saying, oh, you need a virtual hug. Well, thank you. Yeah, virtual hugs to go all around. Easiest way to give hugs these days with the whole social distancing thing going on. But I find it interesting. So this to me is interesting, and I'm going to be interested what the chat has to say about this. He's saying that the State of Play that's happening in early August is going to be similar to past State of Plays, but is going to be focusing on PS5 games. Now, do you think... And I know. Okay, I think I have it now. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the way Sony's going to do it. I think Sony's going to have their big game showcase in June, which is happening. Apparently, like this June 4th thing is happening, and it's happening soon. Guys, hot damn, I am excited to stream that after the way how lit, and I don't use that word often, how lit the past two streams were. I am insanely excited to stream the PS5 game reveal event. It seems like it really is going to happen on June 4th. And if it does, it's going to be a good time. But what I think, because if this is true, I think that June 4th is going to be the big game showcase. Like, we're going to see the big games revealed and teased. I think it'll be a healthy combination of first, second, and third party. And then in August, it's going to be the first State of Play dedicated to PS5, but that's where Sony is going to allow more of the indie, smaller titles and also potential future VR titles to be shown off as well. Because if there's one thing Sony, I think, is trying to get back to doing is making sure that they continue to show a lot of love to indies and the smaller devs and give them the spotlight as well, just like they did in the early PS4 days. And they haven't really stopped, but there's no doubt they put more of an emphasis on the bigger stuff recently. So, I don't know, guys. I think that maybe that's what we can expect. I know, obviously, we all want to be like, no, we want big events, we want big announcements all the time. And so I think I will say this. I think it would be in Sony's best interest to try to make it clear to people that if this first PS5-related State of Play is, in fact, going to focus on smaller titles, although they will be PS5 titles, I'm telling you, Sony, if anybody who works at Sony in marketing listens to this, make sure... I know I'm not a marketer, but I don't know. I'm a consumer facing here, and I'm the fan, I'm the enthusiast, but make sure you make it clear that this State of Play is not going to be featuring the big, massive game reveals, okay? If you can get out in front of that, then you're going to save yourself potentially a lot of backlash, because once you start talking about the PS5 like in a big way, I know you already have with the tech demo, but once you start really talking about it, you got to make it clear what people can expect. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So that's my guess there. But guys, I have to move on now because this is getting too long here. So I'm probably going to start speeding through some of these topics because I still have a lot written down here. All right, topic number 4. Also, hit that like button, guys. We are so close to 1,000 likes. We are almost at 940. If we can get 60 more likes, we'll cross that 1,000 like threshold, which would be amazing. But gamers are becoming worried that both the PS5 and Xbox Series X will struggle to run big AAA games at 60 frames per second, which at this point is the expectation. This concern stems from Ubisoft saying that Assassin's Creed Valhalla will run at least, and this is exactly what they said, at least 30 frames per second on the Xbox Series X. So, on top of that, we also have the recent PS5 demo running at 30 FPS as well, but again, we already kind of established that Yeah, JV Rod, I see you're saying Nolan for the win. Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with Christopher Nolan as a movie director, right? Like, you already know you're going to get something great there. But it was already confirmed, or at least, we were all made very aware of the fact that the 30 FPS tech demo, it was because it was highly unoptimized. And there's a really good chance that it could have hit 60 FPS if it was optimized with maybe a few tweaks here and there. So this is exactly what Ubisoft put out when it comes to talking about Assassin's Creed Valhalla running at 30 FPS on Xbox Series X. Ubisoft has always been committed to exploring new technologies, taking advantage of the capabilities of new consoles to deliver the most immersive experience possible, which is why we are excited to be collaborating with Microsoft to bring Assassin's Creed Valhalla to Xbox Series X. Currently, we can guarantee that Assassin's Creed Valhalla, whatever, will run at least 30 frames per second. Assassin's Creed Valhalla will benefit from faster loading times, allowing players to immerse themselves in history and the world without friction. Finally, Assassin's Creed Valhalla will benefit from improved graphics made possible by the Xbox Series X, and we can't wait to see the beautiful world we're creating in stunning 4K resolution. We will have a lot more to show about Assassin's Creed Valhalla in the near future, so stay tuned for more information soon. And so I wrote down here, first of all, how do we feel about this? Are we okay with the idea of some, not all, but some big AAA cross-generation games not being able to hit 60 frames per second? Because I'll tell you right now, at least we can say Assassin's Creed Valhalla is a cross-gen game. Maybe that takes a little bit of the heat off, but if this was not a cross-gen game, that would be absolutely unacceptable. So keep in mind, how do we feel about some cross-gen games not hitting it? And do you think this might be because the devs that are making these games and they're porting them over to the next-gen consoles, do you think that maybe it's the reason why we're not going to see 60 FPS as often as we like is because they have to make some changes and some tweaks to their game engines, because their game engines are so tailored to hit that 30 FPS mark. Now, I'm not too familiar with how this works. I don't know. All I know is that a lot of people are not happy about this. And I also said here, and I fully believe this, that there should always be an option at the very least where, if we can't get 4K 60 FPS natively, right, like native 4K 60 FPS, at least give people the option to switch between, hey, I want the option to have better performance, better frame rate over the visuals. And if you can't make that happen, then I think that you're just asking for people to basically be really pissed off at you. So I don't have much more to say about this because I did talk about this a lot in the previous streams, but at least I feel like I did. At least I've heard a lot of other people talk about it. But basically, to just kind of blow right through this topic, I would love for all next-gen games to be 4K 60. I can be understanding of the fact that not all massive AAA games will be. However, I will not be accepting of the fact that they're going to try to tell me that I can't have the option to choose. Like, if I can't get native 4K, no big deal. If you got to make it 1440p, to hit 60 FPS, fine. If there's an option to turn ray tracing on or off so that way you can hit that 60 FPS mark, fine. But you need to give the option. If you don't give the option, then I don't understand how you're going to expect to not get hate. I mean, these are the next-gen consoles. Most people are expecting that games are going to hit 4K 60 all the time, and this is clearly on Ubisoft's part. There's no doubt that the Xbox Series X is more than capable of hitting 4K 60 for a game like that. So I don't know what that problem is, but let me know your thoughts about this in the chat and down in the comments below. But we are going to move on to the final topic here, but we have a lot to go through with this final topic because this is just general random game news. This is how I like to end the podcast, so we can have more time here to talk about other things, not just purely Xbox and PlayStation related, although they are inherently related, but I think you guys know what I mean. So, starting here with the random general game news, Capcom plans to release multiple major new titles by March 2021, and it seems likely that Resident Evil 8 may be one of the two games. Now, when they said multiple games, they're talking about two games here, and it seems like Resident Evil 8 may actually be one of those two games. So I ask you guys, I ask the chat, what could the second game be? Let me know in the chat. Moving right along here, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 Remastered have been announced. It's being developed by the same team who did the Crash Bandicoot and Sane trilogy Vicarious Visions, and it looks to stay true to the original game. The graphics have been completely overhauled, and the game will run at 4K 60 FPS, and most of the original soundtrack is set to return. I think that they actually came out and let us know exactly what tracks are returning, and they're probably going to add in some new ones. All of the original skaters are returning as well. It will also include all of the old modes, including Create a Park and Split Screen. Online multiplayer has also been confirmed, and it is releasing September 4th, 2020. So I was actually really excited about that. I'm actually a big fan of the original Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games, and what I saw of it looks actually really awesome, and I'm really happy that they're bringing back all of the classic skaters. My favorite skater was Chad Muska. Believe it or not, growing up, I loved skating. I was hugely into skateboarding. I messed myself up all the time, though, doing it, injuring myself. I was never that good, but I was halfway decent. Like I could 360 flip and stuff like that. So it was, it brings back a lot of memories. It's a lot of nostalgia, and I thought Chad Muska was awesome. I loved watching his skate videos and stuff. So I'm glad to see that. So if you got anybody who's excited about this, let me know in the chat. Are you a big fan of the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games? Do you still skateboard or what? Just let me know. Also, Skate 4, when's it going to happen? We're getting Skater XL in July, so I'll try that out. But moving right along here, Call of Duty World War II developer Sledgehammer Games apparently has multiple projects in the works. Andy Wilson, the company's COO, told VentureBeat that Sledgehammer has a clear plan for the future. He said, our industry tends to see a lot of movement in general. The gap between projects usually coincides with a larger number of people deciding to make that change. That said, the story of the last year for us has been one of solid growth. We are not looking to the past. We are excited about where we are headed, and our focus is on looking forward. So I don't really know what that means. I'm assuming that has to do with something with Call of Duty, because they're saying that they're working on multiple projects. That could mean multiple Call of Duty projects. We know they're helping out with this year's Call of Duty, but I've also heard I also heard the rumor that apparently they are working on a separate free-to-play Call of Duty game that will be revealed sometime next year. So we'll see about that. In case you guys can't tell, I'm actually losing my freaking voice here, so I really can't go on much longer. I don't know why. I think I've just been talking way too much this past week with too much enthusiasm. So, moving right along here, I might even have to bring it down to a whisper. We have Player One. You're saying, do you think Capcom is doing a remake or a brand new Dino Crisis? If they are doing anything with Dino Crisis, Player One, I think it's going to be a remake. I think that formula has proven very successful for Capcom. Moving along from that, the Elder Scrolls 6 news is likely years away. This is according to Bethesda's Pete Hines, when asked by an individual on Twitter to be clear about when we can expect some info on the next Elder Scrolls. This is what he responded with. It's after Starfield, which you pretty much know nothing about. So if you are coming at me for details now and not years from now, I'm failing to properly manage your expectations. So what you can derive from that is, we are literally years away from any Elder Scrolls 6 news for anybody who is hoping to get that. I see MBG ASMR. That's what people have been asking for, and unfortunately you may end up getting it because I don't really think I have a choice. I'm literally losing my voice, so I may have to finish the rest of the podcast talking like this. So this is what happens when you put all of your effort and your emphasis at the first hour of your podcast, or first hour and a half. But we are moving right along here, and we have Respawn Entertainment. I think this might depress some people, but we have Respawn Entertainment. They have confirmed that there is no new Titanfall-related projects currently in the works. This was confirmed by an interview that was done with Vince Zampella with IGN, and he said there's nothing currently in development, but it's always there. Sir Speaks a Lot, you're saying new game will be Alien Syndrome, hopefully. I don't know what that is, but it sounds interesting, so hopefully we can get that. What's Asmer? You're going to have to go look it up. It's kind of creepy. Honestly, I don't understand how people can get into it. But finishing this off here, it says, Vince Zampella also went on to say that you see little bits of stuff coming back, talking about Titanfall through Apex Legends. At some point, I would personally like to see some kind of resurrection there. We'll see if I can make that happen. What we can expect to see, though, is a new shooter from DICE LA, likely running on the Frostbite engine, which Vince Zampella is currently overseeing. So this is a new shooter, apparently, that Vince Zampella is kind of overseeing with DICE LA. I don't think it's going to be Battlefield. It's not Battlefield related. It's going to be something new. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see what that's going to be. We have here a Mafia trilogy has been confirmed for the current generation consoles, I believe. I believe it's the current gen consoles anyway. Apparently the full reveal is coming. I'm reading here May 19th. I don't know how true that is, but I've seen somebody in the chat say June 19th. And apparently it's not just a simple remaster, at least when it comes to the first game. The first game is going to be a full-blown remake, and apparently the second game is going to be more of like in the vein of a remaster. We have Fred Vance here saying, sip on hot tea with honey to help with long talks. Yeah, dude, actually that's really good advice. I literally think I'm going to have to do that going forward, because you don't think about it, but if you talk for 2 hours straight and you want to, have some excitement in your voice, God, it takes a toll on your throat, man. So thanks for the advice. I'll have to do that. Hot tea and honey. We'll do that next podcast if I don't forget. Sony's news is... True Whittier saying Sony's news is killing MBG's voice with excitement. Yeah, dude, like, no joke. Like, I'm literally losing my voice because I get so damn excited. But let's finish this off here. We have Predator Hunting Grounds is getting its first free update, and I'm very excited about this one. I don't have the game. I don't know if I was planning on playing it. But apparently the return of a favorite... Sorry, let me read this properly. Predator Hunting Grounds is getting its first free update with the first paid DLC, which sees the return of fan favorite Dutch, as played by Arnold Schwarzenegger in the first Predator movie. The update and paid DLC go live on May 26th. It's worth noting that Arnold Schwarzenegger did actually reprise his role for this, and is not just providing his likeness, but also the voiceover as well. And Ilphonic, the developer of the game, plans to continue to support the game with more free updates and paid DLC in the months ahead. Now, that is awesome. I'm a huge fan of Arnold, so I did play the beta for this game, or the demo or whatever. I haven't bought it yet, but I may consider buying this game for that DLC, because I'm just a huge fan of Arnold. The fact that he actually reprises his role, I feel like they may have sold me on this game now. The gameplay just doesn't look that great, and when I played it, it was super janky, but I just don't know if I'm strong enough to pass up that Arnold DLC. So, yeah, but we have the last two things we're talking about here, guys. We have Cyberpunk 2077. Their Twitter account has announced Night City Wire, which will be happening on June 11th, and it's apparently an online event that will provide a deep dive into the game, and this has sparked a lot of excitement, which has prompted CD Projekt Red to respond and confirming that this is just the beginning when it comes to the news rollout of Cyberpunk 2077. And finally here, there is apparently a new Prince of Persia game being teased by a verified Reset Era user. Responding to a user who claimed that the IP is dead, verified user Okabe, hopefully I'm saying their name correctly, responded by saying, "See ya in a couple weeks," which has led people to believe that apparently there's a new Prince of Persia game in the works. So that is all of my topics, all of the news I have for you guys. As usual, I know this is running long, but I want to at least just take a couple of minutes here to interact with the chat at the end here. I like to do this because I try to give people more of an opportunity. I know not everybody can super chat, and I greatly appreciate those of you who do, but I want to try to be a little bit fair here and make sure I can acknowledge at least some people and some of the conversation that is going on. So, if you guys have anything you want to say, anything about what we talked about, feel free to leave it in the chat. You're saying MBG, I can't find you on PSN. I searched it up, nothing came up. My PSN name is lowercase LL MBG, capital MBG, lowercase LL. So it just looks like two lines, basically, next to my name. That was all. I just wanted it to be MBG, but I couldn't make it happen. It was already taken for some reason, so... I keep a lot of my stuff private, really, just because I value my privacy that way, but I do allow people to follow me on there. So feel free to do that if you want. Let me see. You're saying, MBG, do you think the Xbox Series S is real or fake? I think it's real. And I think maybe we could see it announced in June. My question with it is not so much whether or not is it real or fake. I think it's real. Is it going to matter? You know what I mean? Like, is it going to actually have any impact? Are people going to care that much? I don't know. So, MBG, is there going to be 2 PS5s at launch? I wouldn't count on it. I would not count on that. We are very happy with you, MBG. Well, thank you. MBG, what TV or monitor are you using for gaming? I have a Sony TV, believe it or not, because I'm just that much of a fanboy. You know, I go out and buy Sony TVs. No, I have a Sony TV and an LG TV. They're both, I think, like 50-inch, 55-inch 4K. And my monitor is actually Acer. It's a 32-inch 4K. I kind of regret getting a 32-inch monitor because it's like too big, believe it or not. I know that sounds crazy, but it's really nice though. So, MBG, when's the last time you played an Xbox? I don't know, dude. I don't know. Probably Forza Horizon 4 was the last time I played, and I really enjoyed it. The Crow of Yarnum, Final Fantasy VII Remake review, MBG. Eventually. Patience. Eventually. I'm going to play... I don't know. I don't know if this is going to turn into one of those things where, like, oh, I'm going to play this game, and then I just, like, never play it. But I want to say at some point in the future it's going to happen. So, I know somebody's asking about the Last of Us leaks. I'm not going to acknowledge them. I've said a lot about them. As I said, going into June, we'll talk more about that. So, look forward to that. MBG, thank you for your content. Well, thank you for supporting it and being here. MBG, losing track here a little bit. MBG, are you expecting Horizon Zero Dawn 2 reveal in June? I am. Yeah, dude, somebody told me it's going to happen. So, no, I don't know. I mean, I am expecting it. I would love to see that. I think that at this point, I feel confident in making the assumption that whenever we see the first batch of big PS5 games announced and revealed, I think the next Horizon game will be part of that. Sir Speaks a Lot, you're saying Venom Snake is your profile pick. Yes, Venom Snake is my profile pick. MBG, are you buying an Xbox Series X? Not at launch. As long as I know that all games that are launching within the first year or maybe even 2 years of the Xbox Series X are playable on the One X, then I don't feel the need to do so. But in the future, I'll probably pick one up. I'm getting a PS5 day one, and that's really all I care about. MBG, props for the 360 flip back in the day. Yeah, I didn't master the 360 flip, but I could do it. Like, I did land it a few times. And I think I ollied a 7 stairs. I think that's the most I ever did. I don't think I did anything beyond that. I back in the day, I thought I was going to be like a pro skater until I realized, like, I just don't think I have what it takes. Hi, MBG. I have a problem with the auto-load Cyberpunk. I don't understand what is going on. I'm not sure what you're talking about there, buddy, honestly. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sure what you mean. Am I going to play Maneater this upcoming week? Probably not. I'm too into God of War right now, and I want to make sure to have that ready for all my members, the God of War MBG and Friends Club. So, MBG, somebody's asking again, is there going to be 2 PS5s at launch? No, don't expect that. Nick Up, you're saying, bro, I can't stand these Xbox-centric YouTube channels. They're running with all of this fake narrative and spreading these false debunked rumors. Thank you for keeping it real, MBG. Well, thank you, buddy. I mean, you know, I like to think that anytime... I don't have a problem with anybody else's content. I don't really watch many other people's content too often, but anytime we talk about rumors or insiders or whatever, I try to make it crystal clear to all my viewers that it's rumors, it's insiders. I'm not the one saying this. I know I peddle it sometimes, but I have iSkylar18. You're saying, do you think Final Fantasy VII will remain on PlayStation 4 and PC and skip Xbox since only PC code was found in that data mine? Also, can you sing us a song? I cannot sing you a song. Probably because I would get in trouble. Copyright, although I'm giving myself too much credit with how I sing. I don't have a good singing voice. But I think it's possible. I think it's unlikely, though. But it is possible that maybe one of Sony's guidelines was like, look, we're going to help you with this game or in whatever way. I think it's clear Sony funded it a little bit or at least helped market it. you have to sign this deal where it's just not going to go to Xbox. It can go to PC, but not Xbox. But I think it'll come to Xbox. Gabriel Rudolph, you're saying, do you plan to go back to doing workout or motivational videos again as a YouTube/vlog genre, or is games journalism your ultimate focus now? That's a good question, Gabriel. I'm going to say no for now, simply because with everything that's going on right now more than ever, I put so much work and effort into this channel and gaming, and not to mention I'm becoming a little bit out of shape. I'm not going to lie. I know, right? Surprise, surprise, muscle-bound gamer isn't so muscle-bound anymore. No, it's been hard to work out at home. I don't know, dude. Like, it's something that I've always considered, and it's not completely off the table. But if something like that were to happen, it would probably be way in the distant future. But I don't want to say never or not at all, because I mean, back in the day, dude, I was doing everything. I remember there was a video, it's not up anymore, but way back when this channel first started, I literally had a video of me reviewing supplements, or not reviewing supplements, but talking about them, talking about the benefits and what supplements I liked and stuff like that. And I know that there's some people who would still be interested in that, but you know, right now this channel has a single focal point, and that would have to be something that would require a second channel in the future. We have Oe Akarumi. You're saying, as a fan of martial arts, I really like the samurai cinema in Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah. Do you like those classic martial arts movies, classic samurai movies? I think they're doing it great there, buddy. I think people are really, really liking that. Fred Vance, you're saying, you playing Maneater this upcoming week? Fred Vance, no, I don't think I am. But that doesn't mean I won't ever. So, MBG, is the gym reopen? I don't think so. And even if it was, I don't know if I'd be going back just yet. I have like some free weights that I use, but I really need to upgrade it because I'm thinking I'm probably going to be working out from home for quite some time. So I'm probably going to have to invest in some more weights. Although my friend, I think it was Brown Sugar, he was telling me he was looking to buy some weights, and he went to Walmart. They had none. He checked Amazon. They had none. I'm like, what's happened? Is everybody buying up all the weights? MBG, is it true that the PS5 will be more powerful than a high-end PC? I don't necessarily know if powerful is the right word. Maybe faster is the right word, potentially. And I don't know how true that is, but it seems like it might be, yeah. Price predictions for Series X, PS5, and Series S. Series X, 500. PS5, 500. Series S, 350. That's my prediction. MBG, you have 1K likes. Oh, I do. I didn't even notice that. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I was hoping to achieve 1,000 likes before we ended this podcast, and you guys did it. Oh, and I want to do this, too, before I end it. I want to... I want to just have my members, the credits roll a little bit here at the end, too, once again. We did it in the beginning, but we'll do it at the end, too. Big thank you to all my members, those of you who go above and beyond to support me here directly. I know that it's not easy at a time like this, you know, and I know that some people are like, oh, it's only $5 or whatever, but not to me. I mean, I know the value of $1 for sure, and so thank you guys. I know that this is maybe not as good as a verbal shout out, but I could probably even I could change this too. No, wrong one. I'm gonna see if I can make this full screen at the end here. Mess around with it so we can get it. Oh, you tell I've been talking for a long time, so we'll make that full screen for you guys and let it run here just a little bit longer. And obviously each week, or you know, whenever I do this, I'll update this list, obviously, and you know, yeah. So let's see. We'll just do a couple more minutes here. MBG equals muscle bound gamer. Yes, that is correct. MBG, will you give us your honest opinion on The Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima? Yeah, I will, for sure. I mean, I always give my honest opinion. I know that sometimes people in the past think I haven't been critical enough, but Mr. Amster saying, by the way, my dad said he loves you. Well, thank you for that, I guess. MBG, I've been a day one fan of yours. This is coming from Mad Night Gaming. I also follow you on Twitter. Are you going to play Godfall? I am going to play Godfall. I'm actually pretty excited for Godfall, honestly. I think it has a lot of potential. I understand it seems a little bit generic on the surface, but I'm excited for it. So thank you for being here since day one, buddy. We have Lone2 Wander, a new channel member. That's 2 members today. Thank you guys so much. I hope you can look forward and enjoy your new exclusive perks you're going to get. And thank you for going above and beyond here, Lone 2 Wander, to support me directly. Jeez, my voice is really going. But again, I want to let these credits roll because I don't know. Maybe I think I want to let these credits roll because I like that I came up. I just like it. I think it's really cool looking. I think it fits the theme of the channel perfectly. What do you guys think of the credits roll here? Do you like it? I know a lot of you guys were saying earlier that you do like it, but MBG, your voice is almost gone, my dude. Yeah, the good news is, and here's the good news. I know it sounds bad. My voice recovers really quickly. It just sounds really bad right now, but literally in a couple of hours, I'm back to normal. It's like your vocal cords are like a muscle, believe it or not. And it's just like working out a muscle. If you keep going and going and going, your muscle's going to get so fatigued and so tired. And if you keep going, you're going to end up doing less and less. The same applies to your voice. And right now, I've just been going and going and going, and I haven't taken a break or a rest, So once I do it, it recovers really, really quickly. So Devil Child, you're saying it looks fire. Thanks, man. I'm glad you like it. Devil Child, we have the eldest member here. Everybody take a good look at Devil Child. He has the blue PlayStation icon that's a little bit hard to see on the black background here, but I think Devil Child is going to be the first one to get that classic PlayStation logo next to his name. So, oh god, yeah, it's really getting bad now. But all right, guys, I think that is MBG. You need some OG PlayStation mods, LMAO. Yeah, Devil Child has bigger muscles than you, MBG. Devil Child is strong, dude. He's strong. I'll tell you that. He can really lift things up and put them down. Voice recovery sauce coming soon. All right, guys. So we hit the 2.5 hour mark. I think that is definitely a long enough time. I as you can tell, I enjoy interacting with the chat, but I gotta end it here because for the sake of my voice, if anything. So as usual, I will end it by thanking you guys, giving you everybody here a huge shout out. Thank you for showing up to the podcast. You guys literally make everything that happens on this channel possible. I couldn't do it without you, and you guys have shown just incredible support over the past couple weeks, and I think it's going to get even better as we get closer and closer to more big reveals and a lot of the other stuff that's happening. So one last time before you guys go. See, I feel like somebody's trolling me here. You're like, PlayStation is live. Are they live? I don't think they're live. Let me check here before I head out, if they really are live. They're not live. You're just trolling. Anyway, thank you guys so much. We still have over 900 people here, so on your way out, if you could do me a favor, hit the like button. We're already over 1,000 likes, which is amazing. Let's see how much further we can get it. You guys have made this podcast a really, really awesome podcast, in my opinion, and something I very much look forward to doing every single week. So before you guys leave as well, I want to let you know that if there's any other events that come up that are relatively exciting, I hope to be able to stream them or react to them. I don't know if there's going to be anything that happens this week, but either way, you can look forward to the podcast every single week, and I'll obviously let you guys know ahead of time if I can't do it one week. But every single week, 12 p.m. Eastern time on the channel is when I do the podcast on Sunday. So every Sunday, 12 p.m. Eastern, that's when we do the podcast live, because I see a lot of people saying that they end up missing it. So mark it on your calendar if you don't want to miss it. But that does it, guys. Thank you guys so much. I'm starting to sound like a broken record here, so I'm going to head out. And until next time, guys, take care.